Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monroe Township Zoning Board meeting, February 27th, 2024. Please stand to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Announcement of the Sunshine Law. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, it is hereby announced and shall be entered into the minutes of this meeting that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the following: posted on the bulletin board of the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin boards within the municipal complex, printed in the Home News Tribune and Cranberry Press on December 29, 2023, posted on the Monroe Township website, and sent to those individuals who have requested personal notice. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Ms. Carey?
Present.
Mr. Lupo?
Yes.
Mr. Masters? Mr. Busman?
Here.
Ms. Caratori? Mr. Tanzi?
Here.
Mr. Jaffe? Mr. Cole? Mr. Jadis?
Here.
Chairman LaFata?
Here. Mr. Jadis, tonight you'll be a full voting member, in absence of some of our members. Okay, board members, we need a motion to approve the minutes of our meeting held January 30th.
Make a motion.
I'll
Do I have a
second.
second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There was one abstention here. I don't know if you heard it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's abstaining? Gary? Gary's abstaining. Okay, application BA-5247-23, Monroe Solar One LLC. Please come forward. Head counsel.
Good evening. Is this on? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Bill Harrison from Genova Burns. I'm an attorney for the applicant, Monroe Solar One LLC. We will have three witnesses tonight, a representative of the applicant, our engineer, and our planner. And unless you want to hear me babble, I'll call our first witness.
Sounds awesome.
Please proceed.
Good evening. If you could raise your right hand for me, do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yep, I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address for the record, please.
My name is Lawrence Shing, Lawrence, space Xing.
Mr. Singh, who do you work for and what is your position with that company?
I work for the project development team at Dimension Renewable Energy.
And what is the relationship of Dimension Renewable Energy to the applicant?
Counsel, could you just get that mic a little bit closer to you, please?
Dimension Renewable Energy is the owner of Monroe Solar One.
Okay. And what is proposed at this site?
Yeah, so we are proposing a 3.3 megawatt DC, 2.6 megawatt AC community solar project. Community solar is part of a state-run program that allows for industrial landfills and rooftops to be used to deploy for clean energy. So part of this program is that local residents are able to subscribe to a share of the power that's produced, and they are able to see financial savings on their electricity rates. And another requirement as a part of the program is that as a developer, we have to subscribe 51% of this project to low and moderate income subscribers.
And what is the discount that the customers will get?
Yeah, so Dimension has committed to a 25% savings for low to moderate income subscribers and 21% for other residents.
Okay, and about how many households will be served by this facility?
We're projecting about 400 to 500 households.
Okay, and why was this building chosen for the site of the community solar facility?
The landlord was interested in maximizing the output of their rooftop. It wasn't being used, and they found us through a third-party broker.
And other than allowing you access to use their roof, do the owners of the property have any role in the operation of the solar facility?
They have no other role in the operation.
Okay, and was an analysis done to determine whether the roof of the building could support the facility?
Yep, so we hired a third-party structural engineer. They went out and conducted a site visit, and they ran their models, and we found that the rooftop has a lot of sufficient capacity for solar.
I'm going to ask him questions about what the lease allows. The engineer will show on the plans where the various things I'm asking about, but just so you know, there's a legal basis for doing this. Does the lease allow for a location on the property where you can stage while you're constructing the facility?
Yeah, we have written language in our executed lease with the landlord that allows us to use part of the property for construction staging.
And that would include the storage of vehicles and equipment overnight while the panels are being installed?
Yep, that's correct.
And does the lease provide for a location for a ladder to access the roof?
Yep, so part of the lease, we also have written language that allows us to install and maintain a ladder on the exterior of the building for construction as well as operations and maintenance.
Okay. And once the facility is installed, how frequently will someone have to come to inspect the facility?
Yeah, we will do maintenance on a biannual cadence.
And does the lease allow parking? How many vehicles would come when the maintenance is being done?
Maintenance should just be one standard van. I think we should be able to use their regular parking spots for that.
And the lease allows for that?
Yeah.
Okay, and after we submitted the original plans, did the landlord request the ground equipment be relocated from the front of the building?
Yeah, so we originally have the transformer and ground equipment being shown in the truck port. They thought that was a little invasive to the current building tenants and their operations, so we have relocated the transformer to the back of the property. They've told us the building tenants rarely use the back of the property, and that's also where our construction staging is going to be.
How do customers sign up for the electricity that will be generated?
As we're getting closer to bringing the project online, there will be a simple enrollment process that they can do online.
I have no further questions for this witness.
You can bring your next witness forward, and at the end, we'll ask our questions.
Bulky Smith, our engineer.
Right. If you could raise your right hand, do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please, for the record.
Name is Keith Smith, Keith Smith. My address is 1800 Route 34 in Wall, New Jersey.
Sure.
You want to give the board your benefit of your professional background?
Yes, I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey since 1988. I've appeared before over 40 boards and agencies and represented both municipalities and the state as a professional.
Council, we'll accept them as a professional.
Thank you.
Okay. You want to go over the design of the facility?
Yes, so the project involves the installation of approximately 6,003 rooftop solar.
Just stay as close to the mic as you can, so it's recorded.
Yes.
If you have to get up for any reason, try and slide it over so we can pick it up, so everyone can hear, okay?
All right.
Thank you.
So as you can see, the blue imaging on the top of the building is the panels themselves. There are approximately 6,003 panels that are situated on the building. as well as the inverters, which are the equipment that converts the DC electric into AC electric to go back to the grid. All of that is on the rooftop. The switchgear is located to the south side of the building. The switchgear is located to the rear and the south side of the building, adjacent to the existing stairway that exits the building at that location. The conduit that runs down the building will be painted to match the building colors so that it will blend. The transformer is being located to the rear of the building in the back left corner, adjacent to where you see on this particular plan the red images. Those red areas are the areas that are designated for storage and for trucks during the construction of the array. They'll be, lifting the panels and the equipment onto the roof. The panels themselves are on a racking system, which is angled to catch the sun. The bottom of that panel is approximately 4.5 inches off of the roof, and the top of the panel is about 11.5 inches off of the roof. So they're actually less than a foot off of the roof. The panels themselves are ballast mounted, which means that they're on the roof by weight. They're not attached to any mechanical means, but they have kind of like landscaping blocks and bricks that a certain number of them to offset the wind, and that's all calculated through the racking system.
Mr. Smith, if I could just stop you for 1 second. What you're referring to as your exhibit, is that a page from something that was supplied to the board?
Yes,
or-
that is the most recent site plan
And
that
that's,
was submitted to the board.
What are the setbacks of the panels from the edge of the roof?
They are a minimum of 6 feet from the edge of the roof.
And are there pathways to provide for access for both maintenance and any emergency purposes?
Yes, there are pathways throughout the array. Obviously, there's also areas where there are no panels because is existing rooftop mechanical equipment, and the panels themselves need clear areas so that they don't get shaded out and they can produce electricity.
And is everything located in accordance with the National Electrical Code?
Yes.
Okay. Then you described where the ground equipment was. How does the electricity get to the utility lines along Engelhard Drive?
So there is an existing utility pole located at the front of the facility on Engelhard Drive. Currently, the transformer, which is located at the rear of the site, or corner of the site, there will be a conduit that extends from there to the front of the site below grade, and then it will be interconnected to the existing power pole through a series of poles which have different equipment on them for disconnects, etc.
And for access, are there 3 driveways that provide access to the site?
Yes, there were 3 drives. The driveway to the north, which, or to the right side of the page, is for the office and the office work parking. There's a second driveway, which is on the north end of the, which is used primarily for the trucking and trucks going in and out of the site. And there's a third driveway, which is located all the way to the south side of the property. That's a driveway that we anticipate being used for the delivery of the equipment during construction.
And the initial, the review memo from the board engineer requested a number of changes to the plans. Were those
Yes.
changes made?
Actually, there are some changes that still need to be made. They're primarily, adding in signature blocks and some other things that need to be addressed as part of plans. They will be added to the plans.
Okay, and with the location of the staging area where it's proposed, will that in any way interfere with the warehouse operations?
No, the staging area and the construction equipment and deliveries will all be at the rear of the site.
Okay, and the the ladder that provides access to the roof, is that located at the rear of the building as well?
Yes, that's also shown on the site plan. It is, on this site plan, it's the yellow box at the rear of the site. That's the approximate location. Obviously, it will be located as necessary on the building.
Yes. Is any fencing proposed?
Not at this time. Everything is on roof.
Is any new lighting proposed?
No,
And is any signage proposed other than there's certain signs required by the, I guess, the fire code?
Right.
Other than that, or any signs proposed?
no.
Okay, I have no further questions of this witness.
Thank you, counsel. Mr. Next
Chair.
witness?
Mr. McDonough is our planner.
We'll get to them. Let's let them just jot it down, okay, Marina?
Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please.
Sure. Hi there, everyone. My name is John McDonough. My business address is over in Parsippany, 101 Gibraltar Drive, and I'm the project planner.
I'm assuming you served before boards before and so on and so forth?
Yes, I have. On the town side and on the advocate side, I get to do this throughout the state on a nightly basis, and I've actually been here before.
Okay, we'll accept
Pretty
your-
recently.
We'll accept your credentials as a professional. Counsel?
Okay, you want to give the planning justifications for the variance requested?
Sure. Pretty straightforward application. We're here in your LI Light Industrial Zone District, which, as you know, allows for a wide variety of uses, but it does not call out this somewhat unique land use. We've got solar panels, rooftop solar panels, which is, I'll say, typical in today's environment, but now we have this community solar facility, which actually uses the electricity to go out to, I'll call it third parties or a second principal use on the property. It's a use that's not expressly permitted. I don't see it as being expressly permitted anywhere here in the community, so that's why the applicant is asking for D1 use relief. We've got good neighborhood compatibility. We've got good site compatibility here from a physical planning standpoint. We're talking about a single tax lot here. It's a very large lot, 17.2 acres. It's a single tax lot, block 4701, lot 204. It's got a very large warehouse on it presently. This is a land use that likes to follow the large rooftops because it needs the capacity to deliver and serve its purpose of delivering electricity to the public. It is developed, as I said, as a warehouse and related parking. It is part of a much larger industrial complex or industrial build-out that is hundreds of acres with multiple buildings that stem off of Engelhard Road. And again, other buildings in the area being industrial in nature, I'm seeing there are solar panels on some of those buildings as well. So from a pure physical planning standpoint, looking at something here that is not atypical of what we see in the neighborhood. Again, the proposal is to install a community solar facility on the rooftop. There's going to be slightly more than 6,000 panels up there. They're ballasted racking on a flat roof, relatively low profile structures. These are not going to be sticking out on a sharp angle where they're readily obvious to the public realm. And as you heard, the electricity that is going to be produced by these panels will be converted or conveyed to a ground mounted transformer. And then the electricity will be connected to the grid and available for electric customers. At least 51% of the subscriptions will be available to persons of low and moderate incomes, and you heard it's going to serve approximately 400 to 500 households. In terms of the relief that the applicant is seeking here, the existing use, the industrial use, is permitted in the zone, so this is not an expansion of a non-conforming use. It's an approved and permitted principal use. But because we have this technicality that community solar facilities are not expressly permitted in any zone here in the community, the relief is needed. You have a new master plan, a nice, fresh, well-written master plan that actually encourages renewable energy, and we may see the zoning change in this application's favor down the road. But as we stand right now, it's not a permitted use in the zone. The test, relatively easy before the board this evening. I know you typically deal with the Medici case. This is an even easier case in terms of justification. because we're dealing with a use that our courts have found, and not only our courts, but our legislature as well, as being of such importance that they are quote unquote inherently beneficial uses. That being said, the MLUL definition of inherently beneficial actually includes the word photovoltaic energy facilities and structures. The language actually applies to photovoltaic, whether it's accessory or principal, which is the case here. So we're spot on with an inherently beneficial use under the statute. Whenever we're dealing with inherently beneficial uses, we're looking at a relatively simplified 4-part test. The Cox book calls it an analytical shortcut. We don't have to go through the more detailed proofs that you would need to see under Medici. So prong number 1 is to identify the public interest at stake. The public interest, of course, it's echoed in your master plan as well, is renewable energy, environmental sustainability, including the provision for low and moderate incomes. Additionally, as I said, our courts have established that inherently beneficial uses serve the public good by their very nature, and the positive criteria are effectively automatically satisfied. Renewable energy and environmental sustainability are core goals of your new master plan, and solar is included in that umbrella. Second part of the test moves us from the public interest at stake and looks at potential impacts with this build out on this rooftop. As you've heard, there's good testimony here that the use itself is going to be functionally inert, and visually, it is going to be visually innocuous. Again, low-profile structures on the rooftops. Generally, these are structures that absorb light. They don't reflect light, and will integrate nicely into the landscape, and also similar to what we see in the build-out of the area. It is a non-residential area. As I said, hundreds of acres of industrial build-out and industrial buildings. So certainly not impairing the character of the area or impeding the intent and purpose of your zone plan and ordinance. The third prong of the test is where the board comes into play, and our courts envision an interactive process where the board may take a good plan, take a look at it, and offer suggestions or comments to take a good plan and make it even better. As I sit here now, I don't see any suggestions that would make it better than what's already been proposed in terms of getting here. But again, it's an interactive process between the boards and the applicant. The board can certainly impose reasonable conditions to help make this good project even better. The main thing is the degree of departure from the zone scheme in terms of at least what the master plan envisions with rooftop appurtenances is not substantial here. The fourth part of the test is a very simple balancing, taking that heavy weight of an inherently beneficial use and weighing it against the relatively light impacts associated with a fairly innocuous rooftop installation. Based on that and based on all the testimony you have before you, both visual and verbal, I think the board can clearly find the weight is on the positive side here. So in conclusion, the test is pretty straightforward, and I think the application is pretty straightforward. We have an applicant here that is ready, willing, and able to deliver a beneficial use with minimal, if any, impacts. The criteria are certainly met, and with that regard, I would offer that approval is warranted here. That's all I have on direct.
I have no further
Any
questions.
testimony, counsel? Okay, we're going to start with Mika, our professional.
Thank you, Chairman. I have a couple of questions from your first expert to the engineer. One of the concerns was location of, the staging area. So thank you for moving that at the back. In terms of where the new transformer and the other equipment that's to be located, switchgear, thank you. The accessory setbacks are being met, right? In terms of the 20-foot setback from the property line?
Yes.
Sorry,
Yes, the both are approximately 30 feet.
Thank you. In terms of refuse and recycling, would that be in terms of, any broken panels and all? How often would that generally in your experience does that happen, or how often, and is there an operations manual as to how it will be replaced?
Yeah, so our systems are managed remotely 24/7. So if anything breaks, we'll know right away and we'll be able to dispatch a technician to the site the next day to get that fixed.
Okay. In your experience, a project of this scale, how long is the construction period that you would be experiencing the construction vehicles as well as these panels to be in the rear of the site?
Generally 6 to 8 months.
6 to 8 months. You did mention in your testimony that 51% of this project would be, 400 to 500 households would be served. The existing warehouse, would that also be getting benefited by this?
No, so the electricity would be sent directly off
Okay.
the site.
All right. In terms of, performance standards, the only thing that we have kind of heard about when it comes to solar panels is the noise generation. The state statute requirement would be met in this category, right?
Yes, the noise level at the property line would be met.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mika. Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. They've agreed to meet the comments in my review letter, January 16, 2024. I know they made some minor changes to the plan that's before us, and I just want to add some conditions to my review letter based on the new plan. I'd ask for a copy of the survey that the plan is based on. The license area that you show, that's temporary, only for construction for the 6 or 8 months? And then that area will go back to the warehouse? Is that the idea?
Yeah, it's during construction phase.
Okay. As far as roof access, where's your access to the roof? I see something called a ladder license area.
Yep, so we will be installing a ladder on the exterior of the roof.
So in that area, there's a railroad track. Is that track abandoned? Is that being utilized by the warehouse? And how is your access going to be impacted by that railroad line?
Yeah, I think it's abandoned. It's not being used by the.
I'm sorry,
It's not being used by the warehouse.
So I'd like to see something that, saying that because your access to the roof is in the railroad, in the railroad tracks.
Yep.
Are you walking across railroad tracks to get up on the roof? So I need a little more information on that.
Okay, yeah, we can.
Okay,
provide
some
that.
more details. With regard to the pavement detail, you'll need to provide a pavement detail. I know it just indicates you'll match existing pavement. You'll have to follow our current code for that, as far as the pavement thicknesses. Site concrete, 4,500 PSI concrete on all your slabs. Any details of the bollards as well that you propose? Chairman, one more thing. There is an access that cuts through this property to the adjacent property in the rear. Will that access be able to be maintained open while you're doing all your staging and your construction? It cuts right through the middle of your license area that you call. I'm not sure if that's being actively used or not, but your plan shows a access easement to the property behind you. That's right between the two red shaded areas.
I don't think we had a title commitment done. I don't think we flagged anything. That was an issue for.
Shown on your plan. So it came up in the title search apparently.
Yeah, I don't think there was any flag. That was an issue.
You need a little more help, Counselor.
Yeah, Counselor, we're going to need an answer, so.
There is an access easement. The access easement, as shown on the plan, is based on the title documents that we've received today. So it would be my understanding that access easement, which basically runs very similar to between the two areas that we're showing for construction stage, will be maintained, or they'll, there's also adequate room for vehicle to go outside of that access easement.
Okay.
I don't anticipate that to be anything that would restrict access.
So your equipment for staging is generally going to be in the two red areas, and the middle will be open and
Yes,
accessible.
that's the intent.
Will any of the warehouse trucks be utilizing this area while you're under construction for the 6 or 8 months?
No, they don't use.
So they won't
Yeah,
use it.
it's open.
And Mr. Chairman, I have nothing further.
Any board members have any questions? I know Mr. Luco.
I do. Also.
Get a second, Gavin. What? Can I go? Can I go? And
Question, a building of this magnitude, you got roughly 330,000 square feet. At least I can't see it. They usually put your air conditioning and your heating units on your roof. I'm not seeing it. Are they going on your roof, or is it going on the ground? And another question is why the plan that I'm looking at, I see a space to the right versus the rest of the layout. What is that for? Is there any reason for that?
Well, as far as the rooftop equipment, I believe that's what's shown in these boxes where there are no panels.
Is that down on the bottom? Is that where your air
Rooftop
conditioning?
equipment.
Is that where your air conditioning units are going to go?
The building's
have
already
any
built.
air
The air conditioning units are already in place.
They're all there.
And the panels
They're
are
all- oh, so
going
you're going
around where they're
around.
We're
located.
going around them. That's
Okay.
why these areas are open, because those are existing rooftop units, and the panels have to work around those, and we have to provide access to those for maintenance.
That's what I wanted to, that's what I figured. I seen a deviation there, so I figured something must be in there. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Busman?
You indicated that you have 24/7 computer viewing of the rooftop facility. My question is, it also indicated that you have biannual maintenance. Can you please explain what biannual maintenance means, if it's always monitored on a daily basis, and any repair work that needs to be done will be done immediately, as you indicated?
Yeah, so the remote monitoring is for all like the electrical equipment, making sure that's all running. The biannual maintenance is just to make sure like all the physical equipment is like in place and it's not out of shape.
Has your company done more than this type of facility, or have you done other solar installations?
Yeah, so in New Jersey, we currently have 7 operating projects that are also like this, like rooftop.
What's your experience again on the maintenance of those? How often do you really find that there are issues, and does the biannual maintenance procedure, is it adequate?
Yeah, I think generally we don't find there's any issues. It's just part of the standard procedure.
In total, how many residences in the state of New Jersey, or the 7 or so that you mentioned, are benefiting by this project?
Yeah, we currently are serving over 2,000 residents from those existing projects.
Can you indicate the communities that you have these facilities already in place?
Yeah, we have projects in Franklin, Piscataway, and Morristown.
Thank you.
In addition to those facilities that are now operational, have you received approval for additional facilities in the state?
Yeah, we have a couple other projects that have a program award from the BPU, so the Community Solar Program that they released their permanent program last fall. We have a couple additional projects that were awarded, and now we're going through this process and trying to get more projects developed.
Yeah, I have an additional question, though. Are there any batteries on site?
No.
Thank you.
I have one simple question. The exterior ladder, what kind of security measures are there on that exterior ladder so that nobody can access other than the folks that are maintaining?
Well, it'll be in the back of the property. We can put in some sort of fencing or signage just to make sure that people know not to use it, but it's very away in the back of the property. Also a note from earlier, there is an existing ladder. I forgot to mention there's an existing ladder on the warehouse, and we received verbal confirmation that we can use that for maintenance if needed. So the ladder license area is if we decide that we want to build an extra ladder. But there is an existing ladder that we're allowed to use.
Chairman, as long as that's indicated on the plans.
Yeah, we can get that added.
Any other questions? I just want to put on the record that Mr. Masters came in. He's not eligible for this application, but he will be here for the remaining of the meeting for any future applications we hear tonight. Okay, I have a few questions. We plan on or anticipating putting up the generator anywhere?
Nope.
No. Okay. Your transformer and your switchgear, why can't they be combined together? Why is the switchgear on one portion and the transformers located in the back? And are they going to be individually fenced off? And is it going to be classified as high voltage?
The switchgear is an enclosed panel, so it's not fenced in. It's located at the position that it is primarily because it gets the conduit that comes directly down the building to that location. And then from there, it feeds from the switchgear to the transformer. The transformer was located further back on the property because there is somewhat limited room between the building and the access drive that's on the side. The transformer is your pretty much your standard transformer that you see around. They're self-contained, enclosed metal structures. They're not open on any way for any sort of electrical danger.
Yeah, are there any transfer switches involved? Any transfer switches involved?
Honestly, that's a electrical
Okay.
question I'm not
Okay.
familiar with.
So, do you have any plans of enclosing the switchgear on the side of the building? Any ballards going up there to prevent someone from hitting it using that access driveway or that easement driveway?
We would place bollards on the sides of at the corners to protect the gear itself. And there are bollards already shown at around the transformer.
Okay, and there's no further poles that are going to be required on the property to transmit, or everything from that conduit is on the ground to the street pole?
Everything from the transformer comes below grade up to the front of the site. There are a series of poles that are located at the front of the site to make the interconnection to the power.
The roof with the panels, does this building have any parapet walls that will conceal some of the panels? And the angle is going to do the deflection of the sun or absorbing of the sun, where it won't be seen all around? Or with no parapet walls, we have a flat roof, these going to be more obvious to the naked eye?
We have a flat roof.
Totally flat.
And we have basically as I said, the panels themselves are a minimum of 6 foot back from the edge of the roof line. The panels don't extend up above the roof further than the top of the panel is about 11.5 inches. So from grade, you will not see the panels.
Okay. And you said it's going to serve low to moderate income families, and who sets that price structure? What determines if they're low to moderate income?
Okay, that is set by the Board of Public Utilities establishing the program, and they're, that's separate for each region, but that is set, and I'll let Mr. Singh testify
Is
further.
it a
but-
lottery system? Do people have to apply? How are they?
Yeah,
how are they picked?
It'll be first come, first served. And we have local partnerships in Middlesex County where we will be using them to find our low to moderate income subscribers.
Okay. One additional question. Getting back to the ladder, I'm going to highly recommend that there be a cage at the bottom where it's closed. It's in a remote area. There's there could be loitering taking place, and it's very simple to get up one of those ladders if it's not closed off. Okay? I have no further questions. Mark?
Chairman, yeah, I have one more. The installation of the wiring from the 5 utility poles out front through the buffer, you're showing restoration of the lawn. However, it looks like you're going to be impacting some of those trees and landscaping. I would just say any impact or any removal of trees, that those trees would be replaced.
Yes, any impact of vegetation will be restored. There is a note on the plan, we can't show the exact alignment of the conduit because the conduit will be adjusted based on what's in that area. And so there is a note on the plan that the contractor has to adjust the routing as necessary to minimize the impact to the vegetation.
Okay, and so I would just ask that an additional note be provided that any trees or bushes being removed need to be replaced in kind.
Right.
Also, the berm is going to remain, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, sorry,
me.
a couple of follow-up.
Please.
Going back to the question regarding those poles in the buffer area, Monroe Ordinance doesn't allow any kind of signs or anything in the buffer area, so that would be an added variance that the board is considering tonight. Would you please clarify what the height of these poles would be in the buffer and berm area?
Okay. I think these are all existing poles, correct?
No, there are a series of new poles that have to get installed, the part of the electrical design for the interconnect. And I would anticipate that the poles, I don't have the height, but I can't imagine poles being any higher than what is already there. There is a pole present on the site, and there would be no reason for any other poles to be higher because we're making the interconnect to that particular pole.
Okay, so there is one existing and then 4 other poles are being proposed based on the diagram in
Yes.
front of us. So just for board's consideration, that would be a variance to allow the poles in the buffer and the berming area. And to go back to your question regarding the parapet, Chairman, I just want to clarify the plan does mention there is a parapet height of 2 feet surrounding
Okay, so
the.
we shouldn't see any panels anyway.
Exactly, yeah. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks.
can I go back to your question about, there's no sign proposed in the buffer?
But I think the signs he was mentioning are on the building.
Yeah.
That has solar for fireman purpose.
Yeah.
That if the power goes out, there's an alternate means of power feeding that building.
Yeah.
That's why I asked if there's an ATS, an automatic transfer switch, to make them live from solar. But that building is not using any of the solar. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I didn't say, I was just referring to our ordinance says no sign or any kind of use is permitted in the buffer berm area. I was just quoting the ordinance. So these poles would be something that's in the buffer and berm area. So
Poles, I
variance.
understand.
Yeah. No sign. And I know that. Thank you.
I do have one question before we go to the public. I understand this is a great system and you're touting it and everything. Why wouldn't the existing building take advantage and use this?
Okay.
Why are they not exercising their option to, if they have all the square footage here and it's on their building, why are they not using this?
The program is for residential customers, so
Yeah.
they're not considered a
Yes,
residential.
BPU set up this program to benefit residential customers, and it is set up so the electricity, as Mr. Singh testified, goes directly into the grid, and then they're not eligible because they're not a residential customer to sign up for it. That was a BPU decision, and they wanted to maximize the number of residential customers who were getting, one, reduced power, cost of power for everyone, and 2, the number of low and moderate income households who would benefit.
So is it safe to assume in the future, if this owner of this building wants to install his own solar panels, it can't be done? Is that what I'm going to understand? Once you're up there, however long your lease is to be up there, that's it. Am I
Yeah,
correct?
that's correct.
I mean,
He
arguably,
relinquished
they
his
could,
rights
to
to put any of his own solar panels up on his roof.
on the roof, correct. I mean, I'm sure you've seen, there are parking lots where people put solar panels above
Right,
the
but that will
parking.
require them to come here, so.
Yes,
Once we give approval, should it pass, solar panels could be on that roof. So if you decide to vacate it, your authorization is going with the building, not with you.
Well, arguably, Mr. Chairman, the planning testimony was for a specific type of community solar. So you would have to have another community solar project come in. They couldn't just put in a facility that would serve this building because the planning testimony that Mr. McDonough gave was specific to that use.
Right. If for whatever reason they left the building and the owner wanted to come back, he would have to come to you.
Perfect.
Because it'd be a different use than what we testified to.
Unless they wanted to put in the exact same type of use.
Okay, anyone from the public wishing to be heard on this application and this application only at the time, please come forward. You guys could just step back. Council, you could stay there. Public's gonna sit right there. Well, yeah. Please.
No problem. Sir, if I could just swear you in quickly, if you could raise your right hand for me. Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please.
George Gunkelman. She knows my name.
I know your name.
I have a couple of questions. What is the lifespan of the panels?
We generally have these projects for 20-year terms, but the panels can last much longer than that.
How long is the lease that you've acquired from the property owner?
It's a 20-year term.
So okay. Is the tenant that's in the building the owner, or is it the owner is a separate entity from the tenant?
It's a separate.
Okay. What is the life cycle stage of the roof that's on there now?
It was just replaced in 2023.
And it should be good until for 20 years. Okay. I don't know if it's possible with the system that you're plugged into to identify users, but I think the town would have an interest in having an input in who the users are. We're currently involved in low-income housing. We're also involved in veterans housing. Many of those would qualify as low-mod users. It would seem that we would have a vested interest in having this in the town available for citizens of the town, residents of the town, particularly our veterans. And I don't know what it would take to get that relationship established with the system that you are plugging into for identifying users. But it would be interesting to see something like that happen.
Yeah, and in other towns where approvals have been given, we've pledged to work with the municipality to facilitate their outreach to their residents to make them
Are you
aware.
willing to do the same here?
Yes.
Is there a allocated percentage or number that you can commit to, or? I mean, you're still going to get customers. It's irrelevant. You know, you're going to get your customer at the end of the day.
We're going to prioritize Monroe Township.
Okay, so that's on the record. You're going to prioritize Monroe Township.
Yeah, and we also already have a resolution support Monroe, so that's already there.
Okay.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Anyone else in the public wishing to be heard or wishing to speak on behalf of this application? Seeing there's none, I make a motion to close the public portion. Motion. Motion, do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, board members. We have an application in front of us. It's out for a vote.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve under the stipulation that the applicant adhere to all our professionals.
I'll second that.
Less than second. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mr. Lupo?
Yes.
Mr. Busman?
Yes.
Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Mr. Jadis?
Yes.
Chairman LaFata?
Yes.
Thank the board very much, and I thank your professionals. They've been very helpful. And your secretary, who has been exceedingly helpful.
Okay, we'll give them a second to clear out. Next application, please get ready. It's BA-5238-23. Again, I want to put on the record that Mr. Masters showed up and he is a full voting member tonight. So that gives a full board of 7.
Yeah, I know, that's what.
Maybe I'll win.
Yes, Mr. Pape, whenever you're ready, sir.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, board members, board professionals, public, all, good evening. Kenneth Pape of the firm Heilbrunn Pape on behalf of the applicant. Your applicant is Stanley Olbris as the executor of the estate of Eleanor Olbris. The request that we have is essentially a subdivision to create a line to separate a residential home that exists from the balance of the property, which is currently being used for an industrial purpose. Before we begin our substantive presentation, would you confirm receipt of our notices and jurisdiction established?
And I will confirm for the record that we have received the affidavits of mailing and publication and everything is in order. The board does have jurisdiction.
Thank you very much. So this is a property that has been before the board a number of times in recent years. The vast majority of the property is being used as a mulch center, but there's one pre-existing residence that is out on the main road that we're asking this board to allow us to subdivide from the remainder. The subdivision triggers a D2 variance because we would be removing a small portion of property that was previously part of what was granted the approvals for the mulch operation. So it's a D2 variance. The single-family residence exists. There's some limited bulk variance relief that's requested because of the size of the lot that's proposed. Mr. Matthew Wilder is here. He is a professional engineer and a professional planner. He'll present the testimony. If we could have him sworn in, he'll share his credentials with you.
Mr. Chairman, may I just, sorry to intersect, but Mr. Pape, just to clarify, the previous use, the mulch and recycling center operation was a use variance that was approved. Is that correct?
Yes.
So it would be basically a D1 variance still because it is not a lawfully created pre-existing non-conforming use. It's a use that was permitted via use variance.
You grade the papers. That's not my understanding. My understanding is a D2, but we'll go with your analysis.
Thank you.
It's the same relief.
Yep.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilder, please share your professional and educational background.
Could you quickly give us your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please?
Of course. Matthew Wilder, Wilder, 137 Central Avenue, Island Heights, New Jersey. I'm a licensed engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey. I'm also a certified floodplain manager and a certified municipal engineer. I have been before this board on numerous occasions on this property. I have quite a bit of insight into the history of this property. But
We'll accept your credentials.
Thank
as
you
a
very much.
professional.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Wilder, I'm going to ask if you could begin by introducing the property to the board. It's the lot and block, location, and overall size.
Sure. So the property is commonly known as 556 Spotswood Englishtown Road. It's lot 15.07 in block 53. The property exists along Spotswood Englishtown Road, which is County Route 613. And the property is slightly over 35 acres when you consider both the residential portion of the property and the closed landfill / mulching operation in the rear.
What is the property zone?
So the property is owned in the R60 zoning district. And as we've previously mentioned, a use variance was previously granted for the property to allow the mulching operation.
There is
the property that we're asking to subdivide from the industrial portion, is that presently improved with a residential structure?
It is.
And was that residential structure in place at all times during the hearings that this board conducted with regard to the use variance?
It was.
I'm going to ask if you could describe the technical elements of the subdivision, size of the lot that we're asking to create, and the bulk variance relief that's associated with it.
Sure. And I have an aerial exhibit that I'll pass around. I haven't mounted on a board, but I think it helps to just sort of see what we're proposing. So if I can pass that around real quick.
Sure, if we can mark that exhibit A1,
Sure.
please. If you just add today's date, which is 2/27/2024. Thanks.
So before I sort of start running through the areas, I find it a little bit easier to look at the aerial to understand what we're proposing to do. So the yellow outline on the plan is presently the boundary of the property. The red lines that you see are the adjacent properties. And simply what we're looking to do, you'll see a dashed yellow line on the property. We're looking to simply subdivide off that residential portion from the closed landfill in the rear of the property. So you'll notice we have adjacent residential homes to the south and to the north that are essentially the same size and configuration as what we're proposing. So from a zoning standpoint, we're creating two separate lots, one for a single family residential home, and then one which will contain the mulching operation in the closed landfill. The property which will contain the single family home is a hair under 33,500 square feet. It does require variance relief as 60,000 square feet is proposed. And the lot which will contain the mulching operation will be a little bit under 35 acres. So it does comport with the minimum lot area requirements, but that also has some variances because it's a uniquely shaped property. The variances that we do need this evening, there's 3 on the single family home, and then there's 2 on the remaining parcel. For the single family home, the variances are for lot area and then lot width and lot frontage. So for lot frontage and lot width for the residential lot, which is proposed lot 15.05, 200 feet is required for both, and we're proposing 165.28. That's simply the land available to us for that property. For the remaining portion, which again is the closed landfill, the minimum lot frontage, the property is a little bit like a flag lot now, with 2 stems that go out to Spotswood Englishtown Road. Those 2 stems are on the southeast corner of the property where I'm pointing to here, and then the actual residential portion of the property. So when we subdivide the residential portion off, we're left with sort of 1 stem, and that would have a lot width of 185.79 feet and a lot frontage of, a lot frontage of 185.79 feet and a lot width of 185.3 feet. Those are the variances that we're seeking to accommodate the subdivision. And I do think it's worth noting that for the lot width.
I think you touched the button on the bottom.
I apologize. How far do I have to go back? Good? Okay.
Speak in reverse, man.
It's worth noting that for the industrial property or the mulching operation, when you get to the rear of the residential units, you have a lot width that exceeds 1,000 feet. So it's a technical variance just because it's a somewhat uniquely shaped property, but it does nonetheless require a variance. So the variances that we're seeking, we're asking for them to be granted under the guise of the C2 variance criteria, what's commonly referred to as the flexible variance criteria. And I'll speak to the D1 use variance after I speak to the bulk variances. I feel like the bulks are a little bit quicker to go through. So 40:55D70C2 states when appeal relating to a property would advance the municipal land use law, and furthermore the benefits of the deviation substantially outweigh the detriment, the variance can be granted. So first, looking at the detriments associated with the property, we're not proposing any improvements. There were some concerns about an existing shed, and that shed is going to be relocated into a conforming location. And there was a request that we provide some screening along the rear of the residential property to sort of buffer it from the mulching operation. And we agreed to provide a row of evergreens to provide that screening. Aside from that, there are no improvements proposed. We're not proposing any structures. What you see on the property now is what will be there, albeit with the relocated shed and some additional landscaping. So there are no detriments associated with the variances that we're seeking this evening. But when I look at the positive aspects of the development, I see two really distinct positive aspects. What you currently have on the property is a non-conforming use for a multitude of reasons. What you have two principal uses that exist in the property in both the mulching operation as well as a single-family home that have no interconnection to them. So it's really a non-conforming use. By splitting off the residential property from the landfill, we are creating bulk variances, but we're eliminating a use variance. We're eliminating something that does not comport with the master plan of the township. So I think it absolutely is a benefit to create greater consistency with respect to the use, albeit at the sacrifice of some bulk variances. And when you look at the properties which exist along Spotswood Englishtown Road to the south and immediately to the north, we're creating a lot that's identical to those other adjacent lots. All three lots to the south are 200 by 150, 200 depth, 150 width, essentially identical to what we're proposing. The lot immediately to the north is a little bit more irregularly shaped. It has a width a little bit over 150 feet, and its depth is about 201 feet. So for all intents and purposes, the residential property that we're proposing is directly in line with the other residential that you'll find. And then the other sort of purpose of planning or goal that I believe we advance is goal E of the municipal land use law, which is to provide appropriate population densities. This is a pretty unique application, but what we're proposing is a residential property that's developed in a residential fashion, and the immediately adjacent properties are of similar size. So their density is of comparable to what we're proposing this evening. So I do believe that, without detriment, the variances for the both lot area, lot width, and lot frontage for proposed lot 1508, or 1505, excuse me, which will contain the residential property, and lot 1508, which will contain the mulching operation, can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without impairing the intent or purpose of the zone plan or the zoning ordinance. Moving on to the D variance, I'll make the arguments for a D1 use variance. And the question is this property particularly suited for the use? I would argue that it is, because it's historically been the use of the property. The home on the property dates back nearly 7 decades, as does the landfill. So what you've had on the property is what has historically been on the property. The landfill was closed down in 2000 and is part of a 30-year closure plan. And as part of that closure plan, the state provided an approval for natural recycling or mulching operation to occur on the property. So when you look at the mulching operation, which was permitted by use variance, this was sort of looked at when the landfill was being closed as to what you can do on the property. The property was not suitable for residential use. So this was determined to be a good use for the property. And the same is true for the residential element or aspect of this development. As you'll notice, driving up and down Spotswood Englishtown Road, you have, especially in this area, a lot of residential uses. And like I said, the immediately adjoining property to the south are 3 single-family homes in a very similar design, size, and lot size. And the same is true for the property to the north. So I do believe the property is particularly suited for what we're proposing just because of the historical use of the property. And I reached the same conclusion when looking at both the positive and negative criteria as it relates to the use variance. Again, I see no real detriment, but I do believe it advances several purposes of planning, and I think cleaning up the use is important. Taking 2 principal uses and separating them onto their own lot in a manner that is consistent with the township requirements, I think is appropriate and a good planning alternative to what currently exists on the property.
Mr. Wilder, have you had an opportunity to review the professional reports provided by the board's professionals?
I have.
I'm going to ask if you have any issue with any of the comments raised in Mr. Razumowitz's February 19, 2024 report.
I do not, with the except, and it's not, there was a question relative to the maintenance of the access easement, and the maintenance of the access easement would be by the property owner of the mulching operation. So proposed lot 15.8, that property owner would be responsible for the maintenance of that easement.
It's important to distinguish. It's not that the tenant has that burden. It's the property owner has the burden. Whether the property owner chooses to impose it on the tenant is their business, but the property owner takes the responsibility of maintaining these.
Chairman, I would just ask that the board be provided a copy of that.
Of course.
Compliant.
And there was a request that it be recorded with the deed and we
So
take.
just let me clarify. The mulching operation is still going to continue to use that driveway,
Correct.
and that's the only driveway they're using. Is that correct?
That is correct. There is no proposed change whatsoever to how these properties operate. For the board members who are carryovers from when the mulching operation occurred, we spent a lot of time talking about access points, and it was determined at that point that the driveway that is on the same property as this residential property was the most appropriate driveway for that facility to use. So we're not proposing to modify any of those conditions as to how these sites operate.
So getting back to your initial statement, you were going to put trees on the back of this property
Sure.
to segregate it. At what width are we leaving open there for RKD to get their stuff in and out? Because that's who's operating there.
So there's currently a chain link fence on the property.
Sorry, Matt, you turned it off again. It's okay.
There's currently a chain link fence on the property, a 4-foot chain link on the sides and rears. The landscaping would be within that chain link fence. So currently there's a free and clear access along that driveway. So the plantings would be limited to just those areas and would have no impact on access to that mulching facility.
Mark, just correct me if I'm wrong. I think the last time they were here with this application, they were supposed to provide a gate there to close it off. And it was supposed to be a certain distance back, so when the trucks turn in, they're not on Englishtown Spotswood Road. Am I correct with that?
That's correct. I believe there is a gate.
Yes, sir.
But it's not shown on your plan.
It's deeper into the industrial lot.
It's at the end of that driveway, right?
So we'll update the plan to depict it.
Yeah,
We were trying to limit obviously we did not show the entirety of the property, but if there's a concern relative to that existing gate, we'll add that. We have to make other plan revisions. We'll include that on our revised plan.
So, Mr. Chairman, yes, the gate has been installed per the last approval. It's just not shown here, but they will update the maps. And I'd also ask for a copy of the access and utility easement agreement
Sure.
as well. Be provided.
And we'll modify it as requested to encompass the entirety of the driveway. No issue there.
Sorry for the interruptions.
So aside from that one comment that I just wanted to elaborate on, we take no issue with the remaining comments within Mr. Razumowitz letter.
Did speak to the variance relief that's in the planner's report. I'd ask if there's anything further that's requested of Mr. Wilder from your planner.
Mika, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Mika, go ahead, please.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
Mr. Wilder, thank you for the D1 use variance testimony. Is it, in your professional opinion, whatever conditions were approved in the previous use variance that are to remain as is and shall be complied with?
Absolutely.
And other than reducing the lot area by about approximately 33,500 square feet, nothing else on the mulching process or the use of that site is going to change.
That's correct. And when you look at how this property is constituted, that 33,000 plus or minus square feet has nothing to do with the mulching operation as it is. So it really has no impact on that use.
Okay. So in terms of hours of operation and everything, they are to remain.
Correct.
A question was raised in our memo, and part of the revision we were provided in the building coverage and the impervious coverage calculation. To clarify, for the larger lot, the building coverage did mention that there were some trailers on the property. Just to put it on record, there are trailers on the property, and
There are, and they're used for storage by the property owner. I don't have an accurate accounting of the what's stored, but there were notices of violation on this property going back, and that has been cleaned up. So what exists on this property is legally existing.
Okay.
So what we wanted to do, and I used a lot of aerial imagery to try to give as accurate of an accounting as possible, so that any future development of this property that came before this board, we have an accurate accounting of all the different building areas and the impervious areas as well.
Yeah. So thank you. So basically on record, the one I believe it's 1.04% as the building coverage is what exists and approved on the property, right?
Yes,
All right.
that is correct. Yep.
Thank you. In terms of the parking space, it's being complied for the smaller lot, which is going to be a residential use.
Yes.
The buffer, and thank you for clarifying that that's only one shed that's being relocated. The buffer that's going to be provided along the rear, one of the suggestion was also some row be provided along the side from the adjacent residential. Is that also being considered or not?
In which area?
Along the side of the shed.
In this area?
Yeah. And not to the whole length, only along the shed, just to make sure that it's.
We could certainly add a
buffered.
couple of additional evergreen plantings. I don't see any issue with that.
Okay, thank you. And the fencing you testified to is to remain as is. Sorry, there was one question I did want to. And as of record, the proposed new lot would be confirmed by the tax assessor, right? I mean,
Yes.
this is just a temporary 15.08 or 15.05?
Yes, I think I'm pretty good. I'm hoping I'm right, but we would need to confirm with the tax assessor the lot numbers.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mark, any questions?
Yes, you've agreed to my review letter. With regard to curb and sidewalk, are you proposing to install curb and sidewalk along the frontage?
We are not.
We're asking for relief of that, and we'll provide a contribution.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, we don't want to install curb and sidewalk in that it really doesn't go anywhere, and the option is curb and sidewalk or a contribution, so we would make a contribution.
Okay, so you're agreeable to the contribution for both curb and sidewalk. Thank you. The proposed trees that you've identified that you're going to be providing, we'd like to see them on the plan.
Of course.
And obviously the details of what you're proposing. Meets and bounds, the minor subdivision needs to have the meets and bounds of all the property. I don't know if they just, got left off of the main lot, but provide all of them. And let's see. As our planner pointed out, all the conditions of the previous approval still apply. We'd ask that that be noted on these plans
Sure.
as well, to highlight that. And lastly, I'm looking at your survey and looking at your proposed lot, and it looks like there was a right-of-way dedication to the county based on your survey, but that's not reflected on your subdivision.
I did not bring my survey with me.
And I just picked up on that while I'm sitting here.
That would certainly modify our request for the variance for lot area. Bear with me 1 second, I will tell you what that number should actually be. So the resulting lot area would be 35. Hold on. Never give an engineer a calculator.
Okay, you want to take a quick break? You can do
I-
the calculations?
very quickly.
Okay. So we'll take a 5-minute recess, just so you give your Mr. Weiler a chance to do some calculations, and then we'll be back in session, okay?
Great, thank you so much.
Put his phone away. Let me just-
Are they good?
They're as good as they're.
Thank you, everyone. We are now back in session. Mr. Weiler, do you have that calculation?
I do, and I appreciate the board taking a break so I could do my math. Engineers don't work well under pressure. Yeah. At least this one. There's a couple of things. So it does increase the variance that we're seeking as it relates to lot area. The resultant lot area is reduced slightly under 8,000 square feet. The dedication was 44 feet from the center line. So the proposal is for 25,540 square feet for lot area. I think it's important to note that this really doesn't change the aspect or any of the prior testimony. Because this application was before this board and an application was made to Middlesex County, they had requested this dedication based on their master plan right-of-way width. If any of the single-family homes, for whatever reason, had to apply to Middlesex County for something related to a site plan approval or a subdivision approval, they would likely have to provide that same dedication. So it does increase the right-of-way and decrease the lot area. Furthermore, it does actually create a new variance for lot depth because the property as it exists now is 200 feet deep that we're proposing, but the resultant lot depth, which was caused by the dedication to Middlesex County, result in a 177.74 foot depth. And again, the prior testimony and the proofs that I provided relative to planning for the lot area, lot frontage, lot width would apply to the lot depth as well. So and I appreciate Mr. Resimo catching that, because the last thing I want to do is tell a client I have to come back here to get a new variance. But again, I don't think it substantially changes the merits of our application.
Counsel, any other witnesses? Mark, you okay with that answer?
Chairman, I would just ask the building coverage and impervious coverage. That triggered an additional variance there. And just trying to get the record clear.
Sure. I can tell you that real quick. It would not trigger any new variances on the mulching operation site, but let me just confirm on the other lot. It would trigger a variance for impervious coverage, but not building coverage. The impervious coverage would go up to 34%, where 30% is permitted. The building coverage would go up to approximately 18%, where 20% is permitted. So it does trigger an impervious coverage variance. But I think, again, we're not proposing anything this evening. This is simply a result of the dedication that was required by Middlesex County. I reached the same conclusions I did relative to all of the variances, but we would also need an impervious coverage variance as well.
Mr. Chairman, I would agree. I just asked that the chart be updated,
course,
the bulk chart, and I would defer to our planner for any additional comment.
Mika?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Wilder, for clarifying. So is it in your professional opinion, even though the lot size is being reduced for the proposed single-family use, the size would be appropriate and would be able to handle the impacts associated with any single-family use on this property?
Sure. So right now the property has a single-family home, a driveway, a septic field, a shed. It has your standard residential single-family home improvements with customary accessory or incidental improvements. The reduction in the lot size or the lot depth as a result of the dedication to Middlesex County does not prevent or prohibit the appropriate use of the property.
Would the buffer width also reduce? Just to clarify.
Say that one more time.
Would the buffer width requirement also reduce?
Yeah, so we're not providing the full 60-foot buffer. We're
Yeah.
providing evergreen planting, so we're sort of asking for a waiver from that requirement anyway. So that the plantings will provide that year-round screen along the rear property, and along with the couple of plantings we'll add on the side of the shed as well.
Okay, so currently it was shown as 77.5, and it will kind of go a little bit more inside. And you will clarify what that width
Absolutely.
is. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mark, anything else?
No, nothing.
Any board members have any questions?
and I apologize because I wasn't here previously. It's my second meeting with the board. But if you could just briefly, so that I can stop asking this question in my head. I see on the property that it looks like there is another entrance driveway at the very bottom of the
Yes.
map, at least that I'm looking at. Is there a reason why that wouldn't be the entrance versus having access through the residential?
question.
You had to be here.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is there a short answer?
So the short answer is we had
You said so.
we had numerous meetings for this application, and at that application and those prior application, there was an objecting neighbor, and the objecting neighbor was right across the street from that driveway. So with the horse trading that went on to obtain approval, it was agreed upon that they would utilize this main central driveway for their mulching operation.
That driveway is off limits.
We spent a lot of time talking about driveways.
Thank you for the short answer.
That's your only question, Kelly?
Yeah, all my notes were about driveway access.
Thank you. Any other board members? Seeing there's none, I'll open this application up to the public. Anyone in the public wishing to be heard, please come forward. Where are you? Mr. Weiler, please step back. Public in.
Good evening, sir. If I could swear you in, do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please, for the record.
Thomas Bartley, 559 Spotswood, Englishtown Road, Monroe Township, New Jersey.
Okay,
I'm the one that lives directly across the street from this landfill / mulching operation. Because I lived in the area now in Monroe Township for 55 years, I am a little scared. Are there monitoring wells from the DEP on this property right now being watched by the state of New Jersey?
Yes, so there's monitoring wells on the property, and as part of the 30-year landfill closure plan, they are monitored.
Is there any findings on that property that it's toxic or dangerous to people?
Sir,
I have horses right across the
I
street.
do have to interject for a second. I understand your concern, and I think a lot of these things have been addressed previously with the application. Unfortunately, they're here tonight just for that one piece of land, just a section to cut it out so the house becomes standing separate. Nothing else on that lot currently is pertaining to what's taking place tonight.
I was just notified to be here recently. Ken over here mailed me a letter, and I'm not here. I'm fully behind this thing happening because it's a beautiful precedent you're setting for that neighborhood. Instead of an R60, nobody needs an acre and a half to build a house today. Okay, I'm fully for everything. I just want to know about, because I do have horses in the area, are there any toxic soils or runoff from this landfill?
So the property itself, as part of the landfill closure from the testing that was done, is not suitable for residential development, so you couldn't build a townhome or single-family home development. There were no restrictions put in place by the state for any of the surrounding adjacent properties. And like, as I indicated, there are monitoring wells that are inspected. I don't know the frequency with which they are inspected, but it's still within the 30-year landfill closure plan. So it is still an ongoing investigation, or the process of the closure itself is still reviewed and commented on by the state and their professionals.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Last question. Are there any findings off of these reports that state there is toxic water or it's a toxic area with this landfill?
Portions of the
Just come up, use the mic, please.
Portions of the closed landfill property does have contamination that exceeds the allowable for residential development, which is why when the landfill was closed, that's why it was earmarked for a mulching operation. So it wasn't high to the point where it had to be condemned, couldn't work on the property. It just exceeded the residential threshold, and the threshold in the state, the highest threshold or the lowest threshold, however you want to look at it, is for any residential contact, because people live there all the time. But there was nothing like that imposed on this property for just general use. And as I indicated, the mulching operation was considered when the landfill was closed. There was nothing put in place, no monitoring wells installed on adjacent properties to track any contamination. That was not a concern at the time of the landfill closure.
Thank you.
I was at all the meetings for this property. I haven't been to all the meetings that you had because I wasn't notified by Mr. Pate until recently. So really what you're saying is that this property you just stated cannot support a residential subdivision. Is that correct?
No. The landfill portion of the property, which is the rear portion, is not suitable for residential development.
It's all one piece right now, right?
Right, but the existing home is able to provide the existing home on the subject property as well as the adjacent homes. There's no concern whatsoever related to contamination for those properties.
It should be noted that the full report of the landfill closure has been given to this board each time there's been an application. I note that Mr. Wilder, again, with this application, made it a part of the submission. So it's there. There's a $150,000 bond. The work is now close to 20 plus years of the 30 years has been ongoing. There's annual reporting every year. And just as Mr. Wilder indicated, there's no restriction on the use of the rear of the property other than it cannot be residential.
Thank you. So there is no future subdivision planned in the back there that's going to be involved in that contaminated field?
As much as I enjoy appearing before this board, I hope this is the last application for this property that we do. What you see is what you got.
So the applicant here is testifying the fact that there are no dangerous chemicals or toxic waste on this property that I have to worry about my horses out there.
Correct.
Can you use the microphone?
Correct.
Thank you.
Good?
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public wishing to be heard? Seeing there's none, I make a motion. I need a motion to close public portion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public portion is now closed. Okay, board members, we have an application in front of us for this house to be separated from the existing property. The driveway will continue to be used as an easement. They're gonna meet all the professionals' recommendations. Is there a motion on the table to?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Busman?
I'll second.
You're making a motion to say yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Kelly?
I'll second with the, yes, with all the conditions that were agreed to at the hearing.
Right.
And the revised, C variances that are needed.
Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mr. Lupo?
Yes.
Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Mr. Busman?
Yes.
Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Mr. Jadis?
Yes.
Chairman LaFata?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Board members, thank you all. Good night.
Hey, Mr. Pig.
What did you just do? What's wrong with you? She just put the Maloika on me and that's it. Now you're done.
No. No, you think you just walk up with a memo?
Objection.
Jeffrey, come on.
Watch Twitch TV.
I only brought a couple because most of you guys are saying.
You only brought a couple? You gotta bring some for everybody, otherwise you can't hand it out.
All right, I'm done.
Yeah, here. This is, all right. Yeah, it's an explanation on some of the aspects of what's occurred since some of you weren't here for the initial hearing. It's a leftover from the use variance that
But it's a new app.
this
is the first
yes.
hearing.
This is the first hearing of the second portion of this application. It is a bifurcated use variance.
Right.
So the use has been approved, the site plan has not. And any bulk variance relief.
And parking variance.
Yeah.
There's a parking variance? Do they bank park?
That's not good. Actually, our planner did a very good job with her memo. I do understand this. I read the application and I go.
Thank you. Say that loudly.
I thought it was adequate.
Oh, me.
It's on the record.
It is. And I'm sure it'll come right back at me.
One of those Coca-Cola machines, all different flavors. Oh, just ice cream.
Okay, everyone.
Sharif.
Next application is BA-5246-23 Waterside Monroe Realty LLC.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, board professionals. Jeff Chang from Fox Rothschild out of Princeton. It's nice to be back before the board. As you may recall, we received this is a bifurcated application. We got the use variance last summer, actually. We're back here for the preliminary and final site plan portion. So just want to confirm a few things. Mr. Vignola, if you can confirm that this board has right jurisdiction to hear this application and notice was proper.
I can confirm that I reviewed the affidavits of mailing and publication, and the board does have jurisdiction to hear the application.
Perfect. So just as a brief refresher, I know we talked a lot about this at use variance, but some of the board members have changed, and this is a new application. The applicant seeking a preliminary and final major site plan approval with bulk variances for a proposed 68,642.58 square foot addition to the existing building, where the total gross floor area would equal 196,543.69 square feet. It's known as 1 Overlook Drive, block 27, lot 9.04 in Monroe. We previously got, as I mentioned, you got a security use variance for 65 additional age-restricted apartments. We called it senior transitional housing. That's it, added to the existing 99 senior transitional housings. That brings us to 164. It'd be a combination of studio, 1-bedroom, and 2-bedroom breakdown. The existing property is about 6.6598 acres in size. And the use variance was granted on March 28th, 2023, so actually spring. And the property is located in the PRC zone. So getting into the variance relief that our planner will just testify to later this evening, there are 3 variances. One from ordinance number 108-9.1B1, variance for parking space size where 10 by 20 feet is required, and a mix of 9 by 18 and 9 by 20 feet is proposed. Ordinance number 108-9.1A, variance for parking spaces located in the front yard, which is prohibited. We are requesting parking in the front yard. And then lastly, ordinance number 108-9.1E1, variance for parking spaces within 30 feet of outer walls of any structure. As you'll see, there is parking being proposed underneath the expanded area. So with that being said, we will get into the details of the application. I did circulate an operation memo dated February 7th, 2023. That was submitted with the use variance application previously. As some of your members have changed, just kind of refresher that it goes through operational information, staffing, amenities, and generally the day-to-day operations of the facility. It would be the amenities will be utilized by the quote new tenants, assuming this is approved this evening. Trash and recycling will remain the same location and have a similar refuse removal schedule. So with that being said, I have the same professionals I had last time. Sharif Ali, professional engineer from Amertech Engineering, if I could have him sworn in and qualified.
And just for the record, the operations memorandum dated February 7th, 2023 will mark it as Exhibit A1, just so that way we have reference to what it is and we can identify it for the future.
Yeah, and apologies. One thing I'll say, I did bring the property manager here to answer questions. However, because we did pretty extensive testimony last time, you have the memo, and also it was memorialized in the resolution. It didn't seem necessary to call them, but if there are questions...
She's here if we need her.
I'm sorry?
She's here if we need her?
Yes. They're here if you need to have additional information, but I don't plan on calling them directly this evening.
Understood.
So, Mr. Ali, if you could...
You could raise your right hand, Mr. Ali. Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please.
Sharif Ali, A-L-Y.
You, Mr. Chairman.
Tell the board that if you're...
We don't need it. He can go.
Since last you appeared and qualified as an expert in the area of professional engineering, have your credentials been detrimentally affected at all? That was a question.
I'm good, man.
I'm good, man.
I have
That's the answer I was looking for.
I have my license on my file.
Super duper.
The shock
It's
of many,
still
I know.
good. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Lee, if you could take us in the narrative to the plan of what's existing there, what's being proposed. If you could highlight the key elements: parking, circulation, traffic, emergency fire circulation, loading areas, and landscape lighting.
Sure.
Greatly appreciate it.
How about we start with the general location just for the board as a refresher? I believe last time we,
Reed, you need to use the mic.
Sorry, no cordless.
I'm not sure if we,
We'll call this A2.
A2.
Sounds like
I'm not
a
sure if we labeled before when we were here before the
That's
user.
all right. They're
but
distinct
it's still okay.
applications, so we'll call it A2.
So we'll call A2, and I have some 11 by 17 that I would like to pass by.
Oh, one thing I did forget, apologies again. I did reach out to the Ponds with a complete set of this application. We did receive an email from Chelsea Teo, who's the property manager for the Ponds, saying the board had no objections to this application. I can certainly provide a copy of that email to the board if this is approved.
An email or an official letter?
Email, because it was kind of a last minute, hey, did you guys review it? Do you have any questions? She just said she was fine with it. But I'll provide that.
So pretty quick, general location. If you're at the MUD and you come into the town hall here, you'll be on Union Valley, and you'll hit the first intersection, Old Church, and the second one is the intersection of Half Acre and Union Valley Road. That is the back area of what we know as Clearbrook. So what you see on the map is pretty much the whole entire Clearbrook community, 603 acres. And our site is located at the, I would say, the south eastern quadrant of that intersection. So as soon as you make the turn and you follow Union Valley, and not to keep going on Half Acre, the first driveway on the left, that's the driveway to get you into the community here, to the site. It's a shared driveway with the retail that also a part of the Clearbrook overall community, and the assisted care or our facility here. It used to be called the assisted care facility back then in the 90s, but so that is the common driveway, and that's what you see in the middle of the sheet there at the bottom. So that's the general location, and that's how you get into the community. If you continue on Union Valley, you will see the 3-story high building. It's only a 3-story high building there. So that is the general location. 6.7 acres, and as I said, it's part of the whole entire community. It's governed by the 1979 ordinance and the consent judgment order 1991. So as far as the building coverage, building height, impervious coverage, it's all based on the whole entire 603 acres for the whole entire Clearbrook community, like we stated before, as part of the use variance. So we're meeting all the requirement. The building height, we're not exceeding the 55 feet. We're about 43.8. And the building coverage, we only have, for the whole entire community, will equate to about 17.2. And the impervious coverage, we about 60%. At the end of the ponds at Clearbrook, which is the area to the north, the community to the north, to the top of the sheet, was about 65% at that time. And that is on the cover sheet of the ponds at Clearbrook, phase 2. So we're about 5%, so we're down to 60% landscaping area, which exceed the 55%. So that's as far as the overall and the location and where we're at with the PRC and Clearbrook. You heard Jeffrey's talking about the existing footprint. I'll give you some boring numbers here. The existing footprint is about 42,076 square feet. And the addition on the ground, the footprint is about 26,644. That makes the total 68,720 as a footprint on the ground. As far as the gross area, the existing, we have 127,901. That's a 3-story building, so that is what's existing. And the proposed, we adding, matching the same height, matching the same wall, where we're adding the addition, and we have 68,643 square feet. So the total of gross floor area will be about 196,500, and I'm going to approximate it 196,544 square feet. That's pretty much that will be in total. You also heard that the existing facility has 99 99
Exhibit 3?
Yeah, A3, please. Sorry. Had my head down was written.
has a 99 unit, and we allowed in the PRC and as part of the 1991 consent judgment, 300 units. So the addition that we adding, which is the area in the dark red color, it's about 65 units that bring it to 164 unit in total. Again, way less than the 300 permitted in the, on this particular parcel. So that's as far as the number of units. The existing parking spaces on site to go along with the 99 units is about 102 spaces. We will be adding, we'll be removing about 12 spaces to put the addition, but we'll be adding another, the total, let's say, will be provided out there, 132. I'm going to say what's on the plan, and we'll talk more about the bank spaces. 132 physical spaces that are provided on the plan, 18 bank, and we are willing to turn them into ready to go. So that will make it 150.
Just to clarify, we're not, after TRC discussions, input from your professionals, we are fine to not bank those spaces and actually build them.
That is correct. So we did listen to the professional, and we will build the 150 spaces. Within the 150 spaces, and as far as the AV spaces, we'll have ready 23 spaces, and that will give us a credit of 15. So that brings a total of, on paper, is 165 spaces. Which is pretty much 1-to-1 as far as the number of units, one space per unit. But keep in mind that 150 spaces will be ready, hardtop 150 spaces. Within the total number of the spaces, we'll have 780A spaces, and they're all located within the area of the addition and the existing building. So as far as circulations, we are maintaining the same circulation on site. If you're coming from the existing driveway, the common driveway with the retail of Union Valley, you're coming in, and it's all two-way operation. You're going up the site all the way to the end. That's two-way for, and in the yellow area all the way to the left there, that is the trash enclosure and the area for pickup, deliveries and pickup. If you're coming into the main entrance, that's one-way circulation. You're coming in, you're making a right, you go around, drop off, you have your ADA spaces nearby the entrance in this area right there. and you're coming out. Also, with the addition, the ground floor of the area as you're coming in, the first, let's say that there will be as you're coming in, that the first part of the building, the ground floor, that is underground parking there. So the addition within that first area there is two-story with the ground spaces at the bottom. So, and that's also one way. So it's all shown on the map, and it makes perfect sense. The most of the parking addition as you're coming in will be the first driveway on the right. That will be the parking space that will be provided. So that's as far as the addition, the trash enclosure. The trash enclosure will be in the same place. The circulation around the building for the fire truck, which is shown in yellow, will be the same. So nothing is modified on that. So along with that, there is sanitary sewer and there is a water line on site. We'll be doing a tap in for one branch of water line and one for sanitary to provide the addition with the services. And along with that also we'll be enhancing that improved area with landscaping, additional lighting, and it's all on a site plan. And the famous of all is a stormwater management, and we will have our own detention, green infrastructures, storm reduction, you name it, everything that is required by the state, the ordinance, the RCC, that will be all on site and will be addressed. So that's pretty much,
And
you
just
know,
one
the
thing
overall.
one thing to highlight, as you see in the operations and was testified to during the use variance, there's about 55% utilization of the parking field currently. Of the 99 units, only about 55 of the residents have cars on the property because the population, the tenants are about in their 70s. So we fully expect to have more than enough parking with the 165 calculated?
Yes, and 100.
64. 150 built and then EV credit.
Yes, 150 ready to go to be built and 15 AV credit, 165. So,
Just wanted to clarify that from the testimony we had last time.
Right. No, as far as that, as what is required, and the variances, that's one of the variances, the number of parking spaces. 1979 ordinance require one per 1,000 square feet. I don't know how they came up with that, but that's very aggressive. And that will require quite a bit of parking spaces for a building or like this one that pretty much is seniors. So that will, based on a total of square footage, we will need about 197 spaces. Residential site improvement standards, which basically takes over all residential requirements as far as parking and design standard, and it's been in place for a long time, and that's what everybody abides by. Only require half space per unit, and that is about 82. So we are 150 ready to go spaces. So we're pretty much doubling that. And that's the number that we should be looking at. Our traffic consulting, Mr. Klein will tell you that based on what's out there, and that's what Mr. Chang was trying to deliver, is that he will tell you that what's out there right now, what's being used is about 80% of the spaces that is being used out there. So it's, most of the parking spaces are empty out there. So we use that in our analysis, and if we use that 0.8 or the 80%, you came up with that number that we came up. Actually, we exceeded that because, as I stated before, it's 1-to-1 pretty much. But we'll leave that to our traffic consulting, and he can elaborate more on that. What do you
Mr.
got?
Ali, if you could you go through Mr. Razumos' report dated February 19th, 2024, and advise the board of any items that need to be answered, clarified, or cannot be complied with?
We have about 5 pages, and all the items we will comply, we will address, and we'll be going through. Hopefully, we'll get our approval tonight. We'll go through resolution compliance, and we'll address all the items. So they're all achievable. Yes.
I'm sorry, counsel. We're gonna go through all your testimony before we start with the questions.
Okay, understood. I have nothing further on direct, Mr. Ali.
Then he's done.
Okay. I will go to my next witness, Mr. Brent Porter, as your architect, to just go through the architectural plans. And also, I'll also have Daniel Vittinson sworn in as well. He's a project manager who assisted with the preparation of the plans. He did not testify last time, but I think it'd be helpful if there's any questions that need to be fielded.
Sure. Sir, why don't we swear you in first?
Yes.
Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please.
Brent, middle initial M, last name Porter, Porter, 1425 Plaza Road, and at R&D. First of all,
And Mr. Porter, you did testify last time, and the board
We'll accept it. Good night.
credentialed. Okay.
Okay.
And if I could also have Mr. Vittinson sworn in.
If you could just step toward the microphone. Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please, for the record.
Daniel Vittinson, V as in Victory,Itenson, 14-25 Plaza Road, Suite S25 in Fairlawn, New Jersey, 07410.
Thank you, sir.
And he's, Daniel's project manager with R&D Design Group, so they work in tandem. So, Mr. Porter, if you could, in the narrative, could you just go over the facade, floor plans, and existing height for this property, and also talk about the mechanicals, where they're located?
well, again, the proposed 3-story senior transitional housing is designed to accommodate 164 units of transitional housing. As it was told to you before, there are 99 existing apartments, and we're adding 65. Now, the building design is basically, the style is called combination of prairie style with Tudor, and as you'll see in the blow up, the lower area is the
A4. Sorry, if you can mark it A4 as an exhibit.
you can see the stucco just under the roof.
And A4 is just a rendering of the elevation?
Yeah, and then the prairie style treatment is again copying what is there now. We're very proud of the gentle slope of the roofs, which are again duplicating the existing building. The important thing about the apartments is that to get enough parking, and we have made the ground floor of the new addition for necessary parking to meet the quotas. The resident, well, you've gone through the residential area and all that. Let me just point out that the Building B is designed as an extension of the existing building. The materials selected are both weather resistant and designed in aesthetically pleasing and contrasting colors and textures, and copying the other building. The building is basically 44 feet high. The existing building is 44 feet high at the apex of the pentagonal roof, and the solar collectors have not come up yet, but that could be accommodated in the future. You see the trash collection area, which is
Those plans were submitted, right, Mr. Vittinson?
yeah, it was all submitted. Yeah.
These plans revised as per the latest.
Yeah.
So those are
Revised plans. So
Revised.
we'll just call it 5.
We'll call A5. It's a revised plan
Yeah.
set. How many pages?
I believe so.
12 pages?
Yeah, just mark it A5.
Okay.
So the trash collection area is basically being retained with a fence around it, so it will not, we're doing, we could go up to higher than 6 feet, but that's going to be on the far side of the building. Let me go on to some of the green considerations. We will conduct an energy study of all building systems and establish criteria to reduce the energy as part of the whole national effort in energy code compliance and energy efficient lighting. The common spaces within development will be designated as a non-smoking area. The building itself, in its different floors, the ground floor, as I said, has the additional parking, and the units, the sustainable, I'm sorry, not the sustainable, but I've got to think what they're called. The affordable units are all on that throughout the building, but there's only one on the lower floor. Then there are 5 and 6 scattered in the second and third floor to meet the percentage of the required number. The 14 out of 52 is 26.92%, and of the those 14 units are carefully worked in to the existing plan,
just to clarify-
comparable to the existing plan.
If I could, the affordable units, they will be provided. They may be in the existing building or in the new location as well. We had,
Yeah.
yes.
But we're showing that they can be, the 14 could be in the new part.
Mr. Chang, to clarify, are they 14 affordable units or 13?
14.
There are 13. There are 13.
Affordable units. Okay.
Yeah.
20% of 65.
Yeah.
Or we've rounded it up to 14.
If I may explain the affordable.
You're gonna have to get closer to the microphone, please. So we pick you up if you're gonna speak about anything.
Yeah, there you
So, the affordable housing units were provided as per 20% of the development. As I was advised right now, they will be distributed in a proportional distribution. That means horizontal, vertical, and also as far as the number of units. Our plans right now represent the proportional distribution of all the units within the existing building, within the new building. However, I was advised that the owner will seek to provide some of the affordable units within the existing building, which means the same proportional distribution will be applied.
So just to clarify, it'll be 13 affordable units out of the 65 new that are.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
go. Round
13.
it up to 14.
No. So we're going to stick by the resolution that we have, which was on page 4. It talks about 13 affordable housing units, 52 market rate units.
Okay.
Correct.
That's it. Yes.
Thank you.
Correct.
And to clarify what statement you just made, the units will be distributed throughout the total development within the existing and proposed, but the numbers shall remain 13.
Correct.
Remain
Exactly.
13,
Okay.
And the
correct.
same breakdown as what we represented. during
Same
the use variance.
breakdown, which we also, the proportional distribution also takes us to the number of bedrooms. So the number of bedrooms is going to be actually 14, whereas 13 units, 14 bedrooms.
All right, let's not confuse.
not
It's
get-
13
It was
units.
all taken into consideration.
That was
okay?
discussed
Thank you.
in March of last 2020. Yeah, last year.
13 units.
We will abide by that. I just wanted to clarify on the record. It's not necessarily all those 13 units are in this.
The
expanded
new
area.
addition.
It would be scattered, obviously in accordance with any pre-construction meeting with your township.
All right, thank you. And the unit sizes and everything shall be in accordance with the UHAC requirement.
Exactly, yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
Just bend that microphone down towards him, please.
we're going to do all the green considerations, as I think I've gone over, but just again, the energy study of all the building systems and establish the criteria to reduce energy. We want to make sure that the interior common spaces within the development will be designated as non-smoking. We want to make sure that the materials and resources are carefully done from a green, energy conscious point of view. And the energy efficiency, we're doing various measures to make sure the energy code requirements, the latest requirements, are followed.
So, and the only last thing I wanted to clarify, and Mr. Ali, I think you prepared a plan. Could you just show the mechanicals? There was a question in the review reports. The mechanicals will not be on the roof. It'll be the rear. I don't know how
To the rear on the
rear of
ground.
the property to the side.
They're gonna be,
Yeah.
on the.
Three. You could, Mr. Ali.
You wanna show it?
Yeah. Yes, please. And that's part of
I
A5.
would say if you could just indicate which sheet in A5 you're referring to, if we're gonna.
A100.
Mr. Ali, which exhibit are you showing now? The mechanical location.
So don't,
Is that A2?
can you guys, can you,
It's actually A3.
so that would be the area right there.
So that would be to the easterly side of the new addition, southeasterly
The
side?
easterly side, yeah.
Away from the ponds.
And
community
again,
toward
fenced
the road.
and,
Yeah.
So it's on the side.
on the side, yeah.
And would there be any fencing
Yeah.
provided around it? And we'll get details of that.
Yeah, 4 feet at least and up to 6 feet and to screen it.
Showing on my site
Yeah.
plan right now, but,
We can revise the plans to show that.
Well, yeah. I have on A100 where the enclosed square, basically a square, and then the larger units also will be here that are needed besides the regular units.
Mika, you were sorry. You go ahead.
So to clarify, this mechanical equipment which will be on the side will be only serving the new addition?
Correct.
The existing mechanicals are located where?
Daniel, where are the existing mechanicals for the existing building located? If you could tell the board.
So the new building is completely independent in all mechanical systems, sprinkler system, all other system, egress, fire rating, handicap accessibility. All the systems are completely independent from the existing building.
Okay.
Okay, so existing building, it has the units are served by Magic Pack unit, which is inside the closet within every unit.
So it's like a PTAC system?
It's a PTAC without condensers.
Okay.
It feeds straight from the
Understood.
outside into the closet.
Yeah.
I know it's called Magic Pack. Maybe there is another.
I don't know so much about magic, but
and the common areas of the existing buildings are being served with the commercial size equipment, which is usually mounted in the underside of the hung ceiling, with the condensers located outdoors.
okay. So the new mechanicals are only for the new addition.
Correct.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
While you're standing there, if you can clarify for the board, because it's very deceiving, that picture that's currently there, the shaded area is the new portion of the building. Is that correct?
The shaded area?
No, I'm talking A3 to the left.
All right. This is site engineering drawing. So
Okay, so we'll get Mr.
Charlie,
Sharif up
yes.
there. So you see the new darkened area? Right. So to the left of that, that's going to be the two-story portion of the building, and that parking is underneath. Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
That's all I have on direct for architecture. If I could, I'll move to the next, Mr. Chairman.
You got it.
Mr. Klein, if you could, if we didn't steal your thunder, you just enter into
Do my best.
So you prepared a October 13th, 2023 traffic engineering parking
If
evaluation.
I could just swear him in quickly, I mean, you know, I know you're jumping the gun, you got him out the door already, but you know,
I would never do such.
I mean, you took his testimony away from him. Now he doesn't get to get sworn in. It's crazy. If you could raise your right
I have
hand.
nobody videotaping me, though.
I
wish
know,
yeah, at least,
it's-
I was here that time. Thanks.
Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, give us your address, please.
Lee, middle initial D as in Daniel, Klein, Klein, principal of Klein Traffic Consulting, 156 Walker Road, West Orange, New Jersey.
Thank you, sir.
You can sit.
Professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. My license
You were
is
here
current
before-
and a good standing. I'm a
we'll
nationally
accept- we'll
certified.
accept you as a
Thank you very
professional.
much.
Mr. Klein, can you just enter into the record the report that you prepared? and
Certainly.
submitted?
I prepared a traffic engineering and parking evaluation report dated October 13th, 2023. And in that report, I developed a trip generation calculation for the additional 65 units. That results, it's senior adult housing multifamily, which is from the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual, the 11th edition. And that would mean the 65 units that we're proposing will generate approximately 13 new trips in the morning peak hour, 1 hour between 7 and 9 p.m., 16 new trips during the PM peak hour, 1 hour between 4 and 6 p.m., and 21 trips on a Saturday, 1 hour between roughly 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. So we're looking at a negligible increase in the number of trips. The Institute of Transportation Engineers, the Department of Transportation also say that less than 100 peak hour trips, you don't need to do a full traffic engineering evaluation impact study. So we didn't do that because of the low volume. Then we did a survey of the current tenants that are living in the 99 units that are occupied right now. We got back 91 responses out of the 99. The average was about, like it was said before, about 0.79, about 0.8 cars per unit. We actually extrapolated the 8 people that didn't return their survey. We assumed they each had 1 car. So we ended up with about 0.79, about 78 cars for the 99 units. Then we looked at the Institute of Transportation Engineers parking generation, 5th edition. It gives us data on actual peak parking demand for uses similar to this. And the average parking demand is 0.61 parked cars per unit in the overnight hours, or 101 cars. The 85th percentile, where 85% of the data is at or below this number, is 0.67 parked cars per unit, or 110 parked cars. And we're proposing 150 parking spaces. So we exceed the average and the 85th percentile. We also exceed the 0.79 actual number of parked cars that are on site right now. And we figure if we extrapolate out, we'll be fine. But we're willing to build the whole 150 parking spaces on site. And then you look at the electric vehicle charging legislation. That gives us the ability to put in 15% or 23 electric vehicle charging spaces. And that gives us the ability to get a credit of 10%. So the 150 that we're proposing, we had 10%. And that gets us to 165 air quotes equivalent parking spaces. And that's where we have a ratio of 1 parking space, again, equivalent parking spaces per each unit. So I'm very confident that based on the ITE data, based on the survey of the actual people living in the 99 units, that we'll have enough parking, more than enough parking, to support the residents of this, of the total 164 units.
And can you comment about the parking space size?
I believe we're proposing 9 by 18 parking spaces.
And 9 by 20, a mix of
9 by 20, some of them.
Mix of, yeah.
Mix, okay.
And they're consistent with RSIS. And
RSIS is 9 by 18, correct, yes.
So we are compliant, correct, with standards?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
That's the only question I have for you. Nothing further for the traffic engineer?
We normally wait till the end. I do have one question while
Sure.
you're here talking about parking spots. I'm
This
sorry.
is good, I appreciate it.
The outside parking, the lowest to the bottom.
Right.
If people come down that end, is there anywhere for them to turn around? So just south of the new, right there, when they get to the end, if all the spots hypothetically are taken for some strange reason, how would someone be able to turn around, or are they going to back out?
Yeah, we'd have to have the ability to make a K-turn there. I thought at one point we could assign parking spaces so people would know that their spot is empty if
We
they're
could
not
also
there.
restrict with we have certainly a surplus of parking.
Correct.
We could.
Well, that's something you'll work out with the engineer?
Yeah,
certainly
we could
work
take
with
out one
satisfy
spot.
What
modes,
Mark is gonna
making sure
request.
that, K-turn can be generated.
Mr. Chairman, since you brought it up,
Uh-oh.
So in that parking area, you're proposing 150 spaces. I would actually reduce that by maybe 4 spaces and provide 2 areas in that parking lot to provide a K-turn as well as provide sidewalk access from that parking lot, one to your stairwell and the other to the entrance of the building at the corner. So you lose maybe 3 or 4 parking spaces, but it'll accomplish 2 things, the pedestrian access as well as the K-turn capability.
We can do that.
You're in agreement with that?
So
That's fine. Yes.
that walkway, the yellow sidewalk
Correct?
marked on the Exhibit A2 or
And then the
A3.
others by the
So
stairwell.
a couple there,
Building.
and then maybe one at the end, and then the stairwell in here.
Right there. Yep.
Okay,
And Sharif will work with you. So
we could work with that.
Get approval.
I'm comfortable with that, Mr. Chairman.
We jumped out of order, but it just,
Yeah, no,
jumped
sure.
out and punched us in the face, so we
Yeah.
have to kind of address it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay,
That's all I have for Mr. Klein.
bring up your next.
And our next witness, I'm sure you know, Mr. Remsa.
Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please.
My name is Mark A. Remsa, R-E-M-S-A. Address 10 Dewberry Court, Mount Laurel, New Jersey. I have appeared here before, and my licenses are current.
Mr. Remsa, you previously appeared and qualified as an an expert in the area of professional planning. Have your credentials been detrimentally affected since you last appeared and so qualified?
They have not.
Super
We
duper.
will accept your credentials as a professional, Mark.
Thank
So
you.
if you could, in the narrative, address the justifications of the C variances.
So let me go through and itemize them. Jeffrey talked about 3. Mika has an additional one in her report, which we have to talk about. And then we were just talking about enclosing the condensing units for the new building with a fence 4 to 6 feet high. Well, they'll be in the front yard, and the front yard ordinance here requires it to be no more than 3 feet. So here are the variances. Minimum parking space size, minimum parking building separation, the parking in the front yard, the minimum number of parking spaces, and we just added that fence variance. So all of these can be grouped under the C2 flexible C category. They're all related to the uniqueness of this type of use. So the parking space size complies with RSIS standards. The minimum parking separation between the building, well, that's because the new parking spaces are going to align with the existing parking spaces, and we also have a building over the top of parking spaces. So that's the uniqueness of that aspect of the design. The parking in the front yard is related to the fact that it's going to be accompanied with the parking to complement the parking underneath the building, and that satisfies the 150. Now we're going to reduce it by a little bit, but we're still going to be compliant with the number of spaces technically required. So the minimum number of parking spaces, if we go by the ordinance, I'm not going to belabor it, but Sharif talked about the current parking ordinance requires 2.5 per unit. 664 units, you need 410 spaces. That's not really related to this unique transitional housing for the elderly. If you go by the original ordinance that was adopted way back when the planned retirement community was done, and that was based on 1 space per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area, well, we'd require 197. And that doesn't really relate to the proposed use. RSIS is on the low end of the scale. You heard Lee talk about that. And actually through analysis, it's basically an 80% utilization of parking spaces. And that comes out to 131 spaces. And we're proposing 150 physical spaces, have more than enough. And even if we reduce the few to get the proper K-turns, we still have more than sufficient. So, very quickly in terms of the proofs, for that. The positive criteria provide sufficient space for appropriate locations, residential, and we're talking about this unique age-restricted transitional housing type of proposal, which will include some affordable units. That's NJSA 40:55D-2G. The next one is H, promote the free flow of traffic. You heard Lee talk about how it's a very low traffic generator. I, to promote a desirable visual environment. The aesthetics of the architecture are quite beautiful. We're going to be adding the landscaping, and as Mika requested the enclosure and the landscaping around the condensers, we will do that. So in total, I believe this will be a very attractive development. J, to prevent urban sprawl and the degradation of the environment. Well, we're simply adding on to an already developed piece of property, which has more than sufficient capability of accommodating it, keeping within the maximum building and impervious coverage, and as well as providing the landscaping. M, to provide the more efficient use of land. This is really a corollary to the prior one. No need to repeat that. And then I always come back to A, promote the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare, because we've provided the others. Site suitability. It's obvious on this one. Site suitability is that this is already an existing age-restricted transitional type of housing. We're adding more of those units to it. The site can easily accommodate it, and we heard about the ability to do it with the parking, landscaping, and so on. Negative criteria. To the north are the residents in the clubhouse of Clearbrook. So there, and it's quite far separated. As a matter of fact, the existing building separates the addition, so there's really no impact at all to the north. To the east are vacant woodlands, no impact there, I see. To the south is a retention basin and more woodlands, no impact there. And to the west are some offices and a clubhouse facility, no detriment as well. And you also heard that the peak traffic generation is very, very low, not going to really negatively impact the road system. And so on, the last is, does this substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance? I cannot see any at all. The 2022 master plan in its goals and objectives for land use element achieve a balance of land use types that maintains and enhances the quality of life. Certainly, this development adds to the one component of serving the older folks in town. Encourage development and redevelopment, which we're actually developing onto an already existing building and site. And circulation plan element essentially ensures a safe and efficient transportation system, and certainly I believe that the proposal here accomplishes that. So in total, I think that the five variances, really, the one added to with the fence, can certainly be granted. That's all I have, Jeffrey, Mr. Chairman.
Nothing further from Mr. Remsa. Open up to the board.
Mika, any comments?
Several, because Mr. Chang forgot to mention my memo in his question.
I got my defense. Mr. Chairman told me not to. So.
I'm just stating.
I did mention your memo.
All right. So I'll begin, and I think the questions is for everyone, so whoever can take it. I'm referring to CME memo dated February 21st, 2024. To clarify, in terms of operations, I just want to make sure, even though the floor plan does show cafeteria and all those type of uses, I believe during use variance, the testimony provided that there'll be one single cafeteria. Could you just elaborate on that,
Yes.
just to clarify
So
all the items?
Yeah, existing area, there's a dining room capacity area of about 150 persons can fit there. But it's not, there's no cooking in the main areas. Each one of the units has their own kitchen.
Okay.
Everyone, I'll call it new tenant and old tenant would be utilizing the same area.
All right. Thank you for clarifying
Yeah.
that. Now, referring to page 5 on our memo, there were certain conditions placed by the during the use variance approval of the project. Would you be providing details and would you be agreeing to meeting those in terms of, I think one specific question was about showing of plaza on your site plan.
So one thing I was a little confused when I saw that comment. The plaza. There's not a formal plaza, but there's an outdoor fitness recreation area.
Okay.
Is that what, I don't know if that was being referenced, because we do have that on the plans of Sharif, if you want to show.
I believe the prior resolution basically said a community garden.
Yep.
And a possible outdoor fitness plaza. So is that what is being proposed?
we're
So you're
proposing it.
complying with those regulations?
Yep.
Okay. And you would be meeting all the others, such as providing us a copy of your draft lease in terms of no subletting and all those additional items.
One thing I was confused, and I want to clarify. I looked at the transcript and I looked at the resolution, but I could be wrong. It was the restriction for subletting of Airbnb type short-term leasing is due to your ordinance. I don't think we made a commitment to put that in the lease. If we need to, we certainly can. But we agreed on the record and in the resolution that we don't do Airbnb. There's no short-term leasing. I think we had one incident maybe 3-4 years ago that was resolved with Mr. Bevins, the zoning officer.
I will say that I don't know that it was a lease requirement. I think it may have just been a condition of the approval. I think the lease requirement was the no subletting requirement.
I think so.
Okay.
But I can check.
I think that's
I can
right.
find my resolution to see what I wrote, because
I just want to make sure there's some way of policing that to make sure our zoning officer is aware, since this incident did happen.
so I think you just,
I indicated no short-term rentals. There's no page number. This is
It's,
number 6, paragraph 64.
Yeah.
Mr. Remsen, we indicated no short-term rentals, Airbnb, et cetera, were permitted, and the average stay of the resident was approximately 2 years.
So I don't know that we imposed a condition saying that. I don't know if the board wants to ask them perhaps to include that. I don't know that it would, frankly.
Is it enforced?
It's item 11 on page, I don't have page number on this resolution.
Resolution?
But it's the last when now therefore be it resolved. Sorry, to be a stickler. It says on item 11, applicant shall include a lease restriction prohibiting subletting the apartment
Right,
units.
subletting, yes, but not the short-term rental.
Yeah.
So I think, although isn't a short-term rental essentially a short-term sublet? So
the subletting language I'm okay with. We can provide that. In terms of Airbnb, I think we just rely on code enforcement and following the ordinance.
I don't think the question in the memo was about Airbnb. It was about showing the
Subletting.
draft lease
Yeah, that's
restriction
fine. We will,
to
as a condition of
our
the
board
approval.
attorney
Yep.
to make sure that's
Okay,
there.
yeah, absolutely. We'll
Thank
provide
you.
it, yep.
So that those basically items would be complied with in
correct.
terms of page 5 of CME memo.
Yes.
The next question I had is, thank you, Mr. Ali, for clarifying the lot coverage and the open space. In terms of building height, I've heard a couple of numbers tonight. Mr. Ali said the building height is 43.8. We did hear the testimony from architect about 44 feet. And somewhere in the plans it's indicated as 40 feet, 10 1/4 inch. So just to clarify on record, what's the building height?
Yeah, it's 44. We had an internal prep meeting. It was a scrivener's error about the 40 feet, 10 1/4.
Yeah.
So it's actually 44.
44 feet.
Yeah, and we're going to fix it with any resubmission of plans.
Thank you. I'll come to the variance question later. There are no signs being proposed with this application?
No signs. If there's any change, that would be following Monroe's sign permit requirements, but no variances, no new signs proposed.
Thank you. And other than the fencing variance that Mr. Remza pointed out, there is no other fencing that's being proposed in the perimeter
No.
of this property. The next question, our office had made several recommendations on lighting and landscaping in our memo. Would that be something, Mr. Ali, you'd be working with us to comply with?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank
The only thing
you.
I'll mention is, again, we discussed, some of the lighting wasn't provided because of the population, and the walking paths, gardening areas. Logically, they're not gonna be utilized after dark, but we will work with your office to work out lighting.
Well, senior people, I mean, there are no restrictions
there's
on
no
them
restriction, no,
stepping
but-
out, right?
But I'm saying, like,
They don't sleep well, so they can probably be walking around.
I guess, I won't make that comment, no.
All right. Okay, so.
But we'll work with you, yes.
Thank you. So we'll comply. Now, coming back to the parking variance and to get items on record correct, the proposed parking space and, well, first of all, is it banked spaces or you are proposing those spaces? All right.
Proposing the spaces.
Okay. So right now on the site plan, there are 150 spaces that are being proposed.
Minus the 3 or 4 that Mr.
Yeah. I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that. So 150 spaces are being proposed. It's a variance, and I heard Mr. Klein's testimony saying that based on the analysis, the ratio that is, for this type of use is ideal is 0.8 spaces per unit, right? What is being proposed on the 150, would the ratio be around 0.91 parking spaces per unit? With the proposed recommendation by our chairman and our board engineer, I'm assuming the parking would lie somewhere between 146, and your parking ratio would then reduce to about 0.89 parking spaces per unit. Is it your testimony that that ratio is still complying with the type of use and the number of spaces that are being proposed?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. Thank you. In terms of the parking space size, Mr. Remza, could you clarify as to, we heard that RSIS standards does promote 9/18 as a typical parking space, but you're very familiar with Monroe Township parking stall size requirement of 10/20. Typically, that is recommended in shopping center areas or senior areas that are typically proposed within the township. Why would you say the board should consider 9/18? Again, I understand the existing spaces are 9/20 from what I see on the site plan.
9 wide by 20 long.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with this mix being proposed of 9/18 and 9/20, how would you still justify that's okay for this type of use?
Yeah, the 9-foot width is more than adequate for maneuvering in and out of parking spaces. The dimensions of parking manual, I believe it's in the 5th edition, talks about the 24-foot wide drive aisles. The 9-foot wide parking space to maneuver in is adequate. We're proposing consistent parking widths throughout. The 20-foot versus the 18 feet, I do work in Livingston. They also have a 20-foot long requirement, but it's not necessary. Vehicles aren't that long. We're talking 16, 17 feet, if anything, of even some of the SUVs. The longer they are, the more impervious coverage you end up with. So 9/18 RSIS, dimensions of parking is a standard that promotes that 9-foot wide by 18 feet long as well.
Okay. Thank you for that. Is there any loading space being proposed on this property? Well, that's what happens when you don't refer to my memo, so please answer.
I think I touched base on that. The loading, unloading area is what you see on the plan all the way to the left. That's the yellow area. That is the existing trash enclosure. Right in front of that, you'll see some empty, you see the striping for the parking spaces, and then you don't see striping. That is the loading and picking up area, and that's been used since the facility's been up. So It's very functional and it works.
So that's used for move in, move out, and any kind of other deliveries
Well,
that
I'm
come
not
to the
really
site?
sure about move in and move out, if they move in and move out from that area, but this is more like picking up trash enclosure area, dropping off equipment. But as far as the moving in and moving out, I'm not really familiar with that on site. But we can hear from the
Yeah, Mr. Chang, would you be able to clarify that, considering 164 units are on this property?
If I could have,
But I would like to add one more thing. They also we have the drop-off area, which you see in front of the main lobby area there. Let me get closer there.
Yeah, that I just see it.
Sharif, while you're up showing the plan, that is the location where drop-off furniture, tenant, started their lease, so they exited the lease. They use the same area.
Okay.
The same area where Amazon delivery, UPS,
Okay.
etc.
Okay.
And we did discuss that during
The use
use
variance?
variance, and it's in the memo that I just submitted as well.
Okay.
Same area will be utilized. Yeah.
Okay, and obviously it'll be coordinated in terms
Correct,
of.
yep, yep.
All right. On the same lines, the question which I had was, sorry, it just popped out of my brain just for a second. Given that it's a senior transitional facility, will there be like traffic or trips that would be provided for the residents? And is there going to be a van or a bus that's parked on the premises?
So currently, I believe they utilize Monroe's busing system.
Okay.
I believe it's. Let me find my memo just as I refresh myself. There's 4 times a day, 2 times for pickup, 2 times for drop off, morning, evening. It's run by Monroe Township. Takes the residents throughout numerous locations in Monroe, such as medical offices, retail centers throughout town. And we don't expect that to change. Everyone will be using the same busing schedule.
Oh, so that's provided by Monroe Township and it comes on the property?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
all right,
And yeah, I don't expect any change with that with this improvement.
all right. Thank you.
Yep,
Thank
no
you,
problem.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Thank you. Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to go back to the lease restrictions. Just to clarify what you agreed to.
Yeah.
Subletting?
No subletting.
No
It's in the
subletting.
lease already. As a condition of any approval, we'll provide it. I apologize. I didn't realize I would have provided it if I remembered at the time.
And how about the short-term rental?
Short-term
That being
rental,
leased?
I don't think we had just a restriction on the lease. I certainly could put that in the lease, and
So
revise
if-
it, but I don't think that's what the board wanted last time during use variance.
Chairman, I think our resolution was clear. It said the applicant shall not permit short-term rentals. So if you're not going to put it in a lease, how are you going to police that?
Well, you guys have a zoning officer that enforces the ordinances. Go on Airbnb and you
But
flag
that,
it for it.
that burden should not come on the township.
If you would
You're-
like,
you're
I will-
required to not permit it. So how are you?
I'll
gonna
let the board
enforce it?
members decide if they want us to do that. We'll add it to the lease. Yes.
Well, based on our professionals, I can recommend that's the direction we're gonna go.
Okay. Then that's fine. Then we'll add
So
it.
we might as well put it on the record now that that's what we're gonna require.
Okay.
Thank you. Next item, the existing pavement, is this lot gonna be repaved and restriped? All the existing areas that are gonna be, there's some, removal of concrete, there's gonna be construction activity. What is the proposal for the existing pavement? And
Yes, so area.
Sharif, Mike, please.
For the most part, the area in front of the entrance will be restriped. Any damaged concrete curb or removed concrete curb will be replaced. And the area along the left side of the building, that will be the same, will be restriped. For the most part, the pavement in that area is in perfect condition, but
Right, so
anything
when
will
was
be-
when was that paved? And if you're doing restriping, I've seen it a lot, and you paint over existing lines with black paint, and then you try to put new striping down, and in 6 months, it's a mess. So are we going to be seal coating those areas? You are proposing to move all the handicap parking bank to, to the new area, to the existing
No,
area.
I do agree with you. So
what
most
can we
likely
do?
it will be seal coating and restriping.
Okay. So like a seal coat?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next thing is the garden. It talked about that you were gonna provide the community gardens and the fitness areas. These plans say possible location. Are they gonna be moved elsewhere, and what are the details of those?
As far as what? I missed that last
This is
part.
the garden, community garden, and your fitness equipment. The plan indicates possible location for those amenities, but there are no details of those amenities, and it doesn't indicate that you're proposing them there. It says possible location. So are they going to be moved to some other location?
No,
or-
that is the location.
So you'll
We'll
provide-
revise the plans. To
and you'll
remove
provide
that part.
details.
We'll provide details.
Thank you. Lighting, will that area be lit? As well as the walkway?
Yeah, so we can throw a couple lights on the building to shine in that area. Will be on sensors if someone is out there after dark.
Great, thank you. Jumping around, the new building, what is the height above the drive aisle where you pull in the driveway to park under the new addition? What is that clearance height?
That is shown on the architecturals.
And will that be accessible by, vans and whatnot, or will there be some restriction to limit the vehicles?
Van accessible.
Yes.
When you say van accessible, what are you referring to? Because the new Sprinter vans they use nowadays are a lot higher than a regular van. So you have to clarify.
We're talking about handicapped van accessible.
Okay, so a handicapped vehicle could be now considered a bus that has a gate that lowers down to take someone in a wheelchair. That's a different height from a van. So
I understand, but there are regulations, handicap regulations.
Okay.
Within the ICC A117.1, these regulations of 2017 require 8'2".
that's all great. What's the height of the ceiling?
The actual height, I believe it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's 9 feet 4 inches.
9 feet 4 inches.
Yes.
So will there'll be appropriate signage indicating that
Yes, sir.
out there? So, I have some concerns over the ADA compliance on the site. The entranceway indicated that the new entranceway is not the location of where the ADA access is. Can you explain the two different entrances? Unless I missed something. In the new addition, you have an entrance, a main entrance, which I thought you spoke about. But then the ADA access is to the north of that, to the old entrance.
I'm looking at sheet 5 of 11, and yes, the ADA start from the ADA parking spaces, crosses the parking lot, goes into an ADA flat curb, runs along the building and to the door. But we also have accessibility right in front of the door too.
Right, so my concern, looking at the plan, I can't tell if that's ADA compliant or not. So I
We'll clarify.
do want that reviewed with our ADA compliance officer as well as myself. Also, there's an inlet that the accessible path in the parking lot traverses. That I believe would need to be an ADA grate, and it may need to be relocated. We'd have to look at that.
Yeah, we're calling to be reset, to be flush.
It
So
would just
we'll,
need to be,
we'll check
again,
that rate.
ADA compliance, that's all. And as far as the remainder of the site, any ramps would need to be brought up to current ADA standards.
Yes, will do.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any board? Oh, Mika, go ahead.
Final clarification, Mr. Chang. Going back to the question about community garden and plaza, that was the item 9, again in the list of previous resolution. So if we are clarifying it, I would ask that we clarify it in our final resolution that it's going to be community garden and outdoor plaza.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, any board members, any questions? Okay. Mr. Masters.
And this might not be a question for you. The double walk part, right? That's also the fire lane, right? We use that for the fire department, if I remember right. Isn't that true?
Yeah, going around the back of the building.
Yeah, going. Do we have any concerns at the southern piece where that beige is, where now there's a bunch of trees and a vehicle wouldn't be able to get close to the building?
I think it's the bottom,
Bottom right, that beige.
the bottom right, it looks like a retention pond.
It is a stormwater beach.
So if that truck has to go across, how would they get close to the building? From there, how would they go left?
Oh, no.
That's
it
just
would not be going like that. The way it's been designed right now.
Sharif, you're gonna have to use the microphone, please.
Because that's going to be a 2-story building now, right? So they'd have to get the truck closer to the building.
That's a 3-story.
3-story. So they can't do it from the street. It's too far away. And now it's blocked by the basin and the trees. So how do they get the truck closer to the building?
Mr. Masters, I think that line is, that path is only for pedestrians.
No, I thought they used it for the fire department too.
Are we?
The fire department, the way it's been laid out there right now.
Yeah.
So if a fire truck comes in on site, will be coming from Union Valley, turning into the common driveway with a retail, proceeding into the parking lot to the left of the building. And if they decided to go in that loop that you just described, that will be coming into that area. That's why it's more like
It's
what
two-
appears
yeah.
to be to walk area, but actually it's been designed for for fire truck and for the tire for the fire truck, and that comes all the way around the building right now, and it comes out into
Listen, I get
Union
you.
Valley with a debris curve.
So, am I missing this?
No, so Sharif is correct. This was originally required by the fire department when the building was originally built. But now there's modifications, so you're going to have to go back to the fire and get their approval. They may want some additional access, as Mr. Masters is pointing out.
Yeah.
You're going to have to get their approval because you are removing a portion to provide the new addition. There was a portion of that access that you removed, and it looks like it's just a sidewalk, but it was put in there because of fire. Fire wanted the access around the building.
Oh, I see. Yeah, we'll work with the fire department. It's one of the item on Mr. Razamov's in Mr. Razamov's report.
Yes, it's in my
all the way at
report,
the end.
and you agreed
And
to
we
all those.
typically go to the fire department, anyway, so we'll work with them.
Thank you.
Any other board members? Okay, so I heard testimony earlier that it's a separate standalone fire alarm system or sprinkler system. Okay,
yes.
so where's the delineation? Because the new building is tying into the existing building. Is this device going to trigger what's existing, or is it going to be independent because they are attached and you can get from one building to the other?
The fire alarm systems are going to be interconnected in a sense that if there is a fire in one building, there are
It'll
going
trigger the other.
to be certain triggers. Yes.
Okay, so you're gonna have
However, it's going to be an independent
I got
system.
I understand that. You're going to have two separate fire alarm panels. However, there'll be a device to interconnect them. If something goes off, they all trigger.
Two separate disconnects.
Great. So next question, what is the width of the columns that are mounted underneath the portion that has 2 stories with parking underneath?
Most of the columns are 24 by 12.
Not the physical column, the width between column and column.
Oh, the minimum width between the columns would be 18 feet. Some of them are 27.
Okay, so is there any, and we have to face reality, is there any protection from preventing someone from going into these columns and now the structure potentially?
Yes, of course. All the columns are going to have the column collision protection. which are 2 or 3 inches additional to the concrete column.
Is that considered like a rubber bumper or something?
It's a kind of bumper, yes.
Okay, so I'm talking about an elderly person that mixes up run and drive, and they hit the gas pedal and they hit a column. How what protection is there? Parking underneath, I think there's a lot of risk.
I'm sorry, the protection of the column.
Yeah, what's going to stop a car from hitting a column? That 3 inches is not going to stop a
The
car.
columns, first of all, the columns are recessed back from the driveway.
So there's no columns in the middle where they're going to be parked.
No, whenever a car is pulled in, is pulling in, they're going to be pulling in and have a column on the right or on the left of the car. That is going to happen. The column is going to be protected adequately as required with the column collision protectors. However, I don't follow your question regarding other protections.
I guess to just cut to the chase, you're going to meet all the required building code requirements for those columns to be in
Absolutely.
a parking area.
Absolutely.
That's the concern.
Yes.
Maybe I explained it wrong, but
Yeah.
and, I have older parents and I know how they drive. So
Right.
there's a question that needs to be asked.
Absolutely. Frankly, Mr. Chairman, I'll leave that to the experts at our construction department
Thank you.
to see to that.
And you did say the height was 9 what? And that will be posted, the height of this, the
Correct.
ceiling?
9 feet 4 inches.
Posted before you can enter into the parking.
Now, one other question. I see you have depicted on your diagram here some solar panels. Is that coming before us now, or that's going to be an afterthought?
Maybe an afterthought
Okay,
down
so
the road.
it's a mood issue then.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's it. Any other board members have any questions?
The only thing,
You please use the mic.
there has been no conversation about existing resident safety during the construction process, and no plans that have highlighted location of storage, how construction traffic is going to maneuver in the existing parking lot.
Very good point. Can someone respond to that, please?
Either one of you guys want to come.
We did have initial discussions with the future construction company, and most of the access are going to happen from the eastern portion. The construction access is going to happen from the eastern portion of the property.
Okay,
and
so that triggers another concern, because that eastern portion access is now for the fire lane. You have an existing building with existing residents living there. Now you're going to tie up that access where we just allocated or dedicated for the fire department to arrive, or emergency vehicles. So how do we get around that?
I'm not sure we're going to block it. We're just going to use it.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would think that we would want to see a staging plan. We would want to understand how, because this is a tight site to add this building. So I would think you would want to see some sort of plan.
We'll get.
If I may, I'll let Mr. Ali, who's the civil engineer, but
Yeah,
I would recommend you would work with the township to make sure that you're
Yeah,
an acceptable
that's
staging plan.
a typical requirement, that logistic, staging.
Sure.
So we will provide that. We'll work with the contractor and the building department and the Office of Engineering, and we'll make sure that will be in the work.
Mr. Chairman, that would be something we would review. Prior to construction, they would have to get a zoning officer sign off for, I'm sure there'll be a temporary trailer that's got to go there, temporary electric services, so that will go through zoning as well as my office, and we can review that and ensure that fire access is open at all times.
Okay, as long as that's a condition,
If the board is comfortable with that.
that's fine. As long as you're going to oversee it, that's fine. Any other questions by any board members? Seeing there's none, we're going to open up this application and this application only to the public. Anyone wishing to be heard from the public, please come forward. Seeing there's none, I make a motion, or I need a motion to close the public portion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public portion is now closed. Board members, you have an application in front of you. You heard all the testimony.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, Madam Secretary.
The
I already-
stipulation?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Under the stipulation that the applicant adhere to all professional requests.
Okay. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Ms. Carey,
Yes.
Mr. Lupo,
Yes.
Masters,
Yes.
Mr. Busman,
Yes.
Mr. Tanzi,
Yes.
Mr. Jadis,
Yes.
Chairman LaFada.
Yes.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, board members, real quick, we're gonna do, memorialization, application BA-5209-21, Lucille, Di Pasquale and Michael Di Pasquale. Do I have a motion?
A motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next application for memorialization, BA-5236-23, Spring Point at Monroe Village Incorporated.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now we have I'm gonna let Peter take this from here, is that correct?
Do that, or you want to go? Public. Get public before that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You tell me what you want to do with your agenda.
No,
I'll
we'll
take
do-
whatever you want.
I figured we'd get this out of the way. Then no
It's out of the way. Okay. As you all are aware, or may be aware, we have some pending litigation that exists. Drafted a resolution that would request that the town council authorize funding for me to handle that litigation on your behalf. So that's what this resolution would do. It would request that the town council authorize that funding.
Do we have a motion to?
I'll move the resolution.
Second?
Second.
Madam Secretary, roll call, please. Or is it just an aye?
Ms. Carey,
Yes.
Mr. Lupo,
Yes.
Mr. Masters.
Yes.
Mr. Tanzi,
Yes.
Mr. Jaffe. Oh, wrong one.
Yes.
Mr. Jadis,
Yes.
Chairman LaFada.
Yes.
What about me?
I don't think,
Oh, Mr.
Do I count?
Mr. Busman?
Yes.
Yes.
You get to go last.
Oh, that's good too.
Yeah.
Let's make this.
What about me?
Okay, we're up to the public portion. Anyone in the public wishing to be heard? Seeing there's none, I need a motion to close the public portion. You.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Public portion is closed. Any correspondence? Any new business?
No.
Make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.